streets of room, no seed, biting never bites. Fast water dribbling in the girls down with the guys. Finalizing, blank you right by. Omen G, Max 4, Robin C, Gallon Neck Night. Hot stove talk, Robin C, bringing the hype. EC's alive, plus trust under those in my city life. Right? Queens got the dreams united. On the rag, trump out, bring me stack. Night and under that chocolate flag. Smack that home out the park. Fuck a deafening black. Side game time, Robin CP time to ignite. Under NYC skies, we fight the good fight. Remains cheer in the orange we unite. Match forever. I'm fit to be in sight. Match bright and high. Energy like a live wire. Queen City chance. Passion never tires. Grand slam dreams and paces folded fast. Holding it steady cause we know we gonna last. We the kings of the field, time to ignite. Under NYC skies, we fight the good fight. Remain cheer in the orange we unite. Match forever, our victory in sight. All hearts ignite like NYC stars. Robin CP, guiding even through scars. Queens got the glow, city anthem flows.
Hi, how are you guys? What's up, Mets fans? Here we are, Mets fans, on the eve of the winter meetings. We are on Soto watch time right now as we are here. Juan Soto watch party. And somebody's going to be happy and somebody's going to be disappointed. And we all hope that it is not us. Thank you for tuning in to a Mets watch party for Juan Soto. And this is clearly a Mets-driven page. And yes, we're probably going to have a little bit of bias when we come to Juan Soto. But this is actually a live stream giving you the facts, giving you what we can find with latest news, latest updates. And we're going to, be here for, we'll see how long we can manage to not keep you bored for hours. And hopefully, look, it's only 3:00 on the West Coast. So, it's early on the West Coast as, it's pitch black on the East Coast right now. And we're hoping for the best when it comes to our team and Juan Soto. And we'll give you the very latest as of right now. But Chris, you ready?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be, man. I know one thing is for sure. I'm ready for this to all be over. That is 100% a fact. And I think a lot of people in the chat can relate to that fact as well. Appreciate everybody in the stream, whether it's on your channel or my channel. Please do subscribe and hit the thumbs up to both channels. Again, we'll be here with you all winter meetings long, all off season long. And again, this is an important step in the free agent process in terms of kicking things off and getting the ball rolling into the other free agent discussions. We do have some things to talk about other than Juan Soto. Obviously, this stream is going to be geared towards Juan Soto. And on the off chance that he actually does sign while we are live, which is the perfect world scenario, again, it's not likely, but it's a perfect world scenario. We will be talking about it right here in terms of a solidified manner. But right now, we are going off of the best reports that we can from what we've heard today. And again, this is a discussion about potentials, hypotheticals, because that's all that is. That's all that this is at this point without him officially putting the pen to the paper. But again, we appreciate every Mets fan's optimism and hopefulness, and we are just as optimistic and hopeful as you all are in terms of the Mets landing their superstar caliber player to go alongside the likes of Lindor, Vientos, Nemo, etc. in this lineup, and we are here to talk about it. Let's go Mets. I'm excited to be doing this with you tonight, Rob.
That sounds good, but involved in Juan Soto and the teams that are in on Juan Soto, there's a few teams that might have been in on this big free agent, and that is Willy Adames, who is now off the board as a potential suitor for Mets, Yankees, maybe even the Red Sox. And now he is officially off the board as he's heading to the San Francisco Giants for $182 million over 7 years. And there's a lot of in-betweens with it. There's, I believe it's $22 million signing bonus and the third largest contract as a Dominican-born player, behind Albert Pujols and Robinson Cano, and we know what Dominican player is going to beat that. And it tops the 167 for Buster Posey. So the biggest contract in San Francisco Giant history, unless they would have signed Arson Judge a couple of years ago. So it's a huge contract. The Giants had issues signing big players. Nobody wanted to go to the Giants, to San Francisco, especially over the last couple of seasons, as that city has become the centerpiece of a lot of issues when it comes to living and some laws. If you don't agree with some laws and stuff like that, it's been a problem. And they were trying to throw money at a lot of players over the last couple of years, but they get at least besides re-signing Chapman, now they got Willy Adames. Now they got the left side of their infield basically set. Giants are going to be looking for more, Chris, and that is a huge move for Willy Adames. They didn't waste no time, right? They clearly figured that Juan Soto was not going to be in their future, and they pivoted to a guy that the Mets and Yankees could have easily looked at, because this could be an issue for a team that loses out on Juan Soto, because Willy Adames was a part of probably ours and the Yankees, if not other teams that are in for Juan Soto, pivot point to a plan B or C when it comes to what the Mets could do or the Yankees could do when it comes to free agency. So what are your thoughts on the Willy Adames signing, and do you think it impacts the Mets more or the Yankees more at this point?
It impacts the Mets. Actually, it impacts the Yankees a little bit more, but it impacts both of these teams because, as was reported, Adames was the backup option for the Yankees if they failed to sign Juan Soto, right? That was their kind of pivot point, so to speak. And we both posted videos about the Mets potentially being interested in Willy Adames earlier on this offseason as a plan B or a plan C option, right? And again, I think a lot of people were taking that discussion as, oh, that's the Mets plan A, which was certainly never the case. Listen, Willy Adames gets a huge payday as he deserves. I mean, a shortstop with that caliber power is rare, to be honest. It's kind of rare. You take a look at the NL shortstops in terms of the home run category, it was Lindor and it was Adames, right? And that's something that you are going to get a very big payday with, even if you hit for a lower average, as did Willy Adames do, not only this past season, but the season prior to that as well. But listen, at the end of the day, the Giants get their guy. It seems like, right, again, I know Giants fans could disagree with this, but they were never in on Juan Soto. I know their fans were holding out hope for Juan Soto going to San Francisco. Their ownership group was very adamant about lowering the payroll a little bit as well and not getting up to, again, a certain luxury tax threshold. And so the Juan Sotos of the world were never going to be feasible for them. This is a perfect signing for them because, again, as you mentioned, it solidifies their infield a lot, especially the left side. I do believe they were also rumored to be in on Ha-Seong Kim. I think he's still a free agent, if I'm not mistaken. Correct, Rob?
He might have signed.
Is he signed? Because I thought I saw some interest from the Tigers in terms of the Ha-Seong Kim.
He didn't sign with Texas, did he?
I don't know. I'd have to look that up. But anyways, it doesn't really matter because I know that the Giants were rumored to be in heavy, in on Ha-Seong Kim heavy. But again, he's coming off of an injury. He's going to miss some time. And Chapman, they were having discussions about Chapman potentially playing shortstop, if they made that move. But now Adames is their shortstop. And guess what? They spend that money that has been kind of burning a hole in their pocket over the past couple of seasons. We know the Carlos Correa deal that didn't happen for them. We know the Aaron Judge deal that didn't happen for them. Again, they get their guy. They add on to another signing that I think is very underrated, and I know he didn't have a really great 2024, but Young-Hoo Lee, who the Mets were also interested in last offseason, and they're building something over there in San Francisco. I don't know quite, I don't know what it is, but they're building something. They're gathering talent together, and that's all you can hope for if you're a Giants fan, and that should make any Giants fan that is either listening to this or not at least satisfied. But at the end of the day, we know who the key players are for Juan Soto. It was really coming into today for me and my mind, and we mentioned this on our stream yesterday, only between three teams, the Red Sox, the Yankees, and the Mets. Well, we do have some information again, we have to take reports with a grain of salt, depending on who it's coming from, that the decision could be narrowed down to just the Yankees and the Mets for Juan Soto as the decision nears either tonight or tomorrow night. So again, congrats to Willy Adames. That's a $186 or $7 million deal, $26 million per year with a $22 million signing bonus. Again, I'm not sure if I would have gone all the way up to that caliber of a deal for Adames. I think he was projected for about 20, maybe $15 million less than that in terms of the total contract from what I gathered on Spotrac. But again, at the end of the day, he's a talented player. I would have definitely accepted him on my team if, the Mets were potentially out on Juan Soto. But again, the Mets seem to be one of the finalists for Juan Soto, and that is what you have to prioritize at this point.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I keep on looking at my phone. Obviously, this is a watch party, and we're trying to get any type of news that we can get. Obviously, if anything breaks besides Juan Soto that is, that has anything to do that can relate to the Mets,
please let us know in the chat. Please let us know in the chat.
Yeah,
We're consistently watching these live chats, so let us know if we're missing something. I'm also going to be looking down at our phone here 100%, or at my phone 100%. And also, by the way, something that I didn't mention about Adames, the best thing about this all is that he's not a Dodger. He's not a Dodger, because the Dodgers are also interested in on him as well. And that's what I am so thankful for. He didn't choose LA.
Yeah, exactly. He did go to the West Coast. He did go to the NL West, but he is a Giant now. And listen, it's a big contract. He deserved it. He had a great year last year. And, it just made – I wonder if it does scare – I wouldn't say scare, but kind of entice, maybe push the Juan Soto sign-in past the finish line for, let's say, the Mets and the Yankees, if you believe the reports that the Mets and the Yankees are the favorite. And, a guy that was what the hell is his name? It was a Red Sox. I think he was I don't think he's a beat reporter, but he has a pretty good following, and he does he's in the know. And he felt like he's not going to be the first one to mention it, but he does feel that, and this is a Red Sox, I don't know, what do you want to call him? A podcaster, a Red Sox guy that has enough know inside the circles of the Red Sox that he don't believe the Red Sox, he thinks the Red Sox are out of it, and it's between the Mets and the Yankees. And if you want to believe that, we can believe that. Again, we're trying to, pick the facts and see what's right, see what's wrong here. We're trying our best to figure out what is right. And again, we believe now that it's easily understandable that this overall contract for Juan Soto is going to be over $700 million. And I said this a couple of weeks ago, and I put a video up when the latest news came out that the Red Sox that were heavily pursuing him, and it seemed like they can be the favorite now. And I just felt like $700 million was likely, and he's going to get more than Shohei Ohtani. And for whatever anybody believes in, does Soto worth more than Ohtani? I mean, overall, probably not, because he is a really good pitcher as well. So it's kind of hard to judge that. But he is one of the best players in baseball. If there's multiple teams willing to give him that much money, then he's worth it. I don't think, is anybody worth the contracts that they get? To be quite honest with you, probably not, right? We know almost all these guys are overpaid. And that's a fact. And I think we worry about the money so much, because only a few years ago, how many people said that Lindor was overpaid, right, Chris? We had a conversation many times throughout the last couple of seasons where Met fans couldn't stand Francisco Lindor, and he was an overpaid shortstop, not one of the best shortstops in baseball. Now you don't hear that anymore. And it took Lindor having an MVP type season to shut up a lot of Met fans. And I'm not saying that Juan Soto has to shut up Met fans, but I think if you're not a Yankees fan and you don't watch your team every day, you kind of lose focus on what Juan Soto does to your team, right? He put the Yankees on a level that nobody could touch in the American League. Like that's just what it was. And yes, the American League was subpar, but the Yankees would have been a subpar team without Juan Soto. He puts the team on another level. And yeah, he had base running errors. Yeah, he had defensive mishaps, but he had the highest percentage of throwing runners out on the base path. He had that. He doesn't have a great arm, but he has an accurate arm. And I know that's not something to just, oh, wow, he has a good arm and that's, he throws out runners. It's not the end all be all. He takes bad routes to balls, but how many times did we worry about Marte defensively? I'm not saying Marte is a better defender, obviously, but we did concern ourselves with Marte that he was hitting and we had to keep him in the lineup and they were throwing him in right field because of that. And you would, take away the defense a little bit and hope the defense is better because you wanted that bat in the lineup. That's what you have to think of when it comes to Juan Soto. And Juan Soto is just a different guy at the plate. And I think there's not enough people that watch him every day. They just see the highlights. They see the mishaps, the great at-bats, and the mishaps in highlights. And I think people don't watch the everyday at-bats. Like I was so in tuned with Juan Soto at-bats during Yankee games because he is a spectacle. He is a guy that you want to watch him bat. It's an event when he bats. And I think that's important to realize that he just changes the feel in a lineup. How do you think Alonso will feel if Juan Soto's in a lineup, if he's behind him or in front of him? Huge difference than a guy like JD Martinez, right? Or Vogelback. That's a huge difference. Huge difference. And, for the Met fans that, always say that, Pete Alonso never had a guy like Juan Soto behind him. Well, if you don't get Juan Soto, who are you going to have behind him? Can you talk about Anthony Sandair is a really good player, but does he scare you like a Juan Soto does? No. I mean,
there's
really
people in this fan base telling me that Juan Soto shouldn't even bat behind Pete Alonso to begin with if both of these guys are in this lineup. And honestly, forgive me if I'm wrong on this, Rob. I think you said that as well. I think that you said if both of these guys were in the lineup for the Mets in 2025, you would actually have Soto before Alonso as well. So again, I mean, if you're bringing in Juan Soto, I'd bring him in as protection for Pete. And again, I'm done giving Pete Alonso the excuses at the end of the day. But if you're going to actually prioritize signing both of these guys, why not give him that protection to allow other pitchers to go ahead and just throw, their best for Pete Alonso in hopes of not walking him to get to Juan Soto, who is also a very big walk candidate. So I'm sure we'll get into the lineup discussion, whether you want to do it right now or not. But again, I think that what you're trying to convey, if I'm not mistaken, is that the bottom line is really that the only thing that needs to be said here is that there's a lot of people in this Mets fan base that I have gathered, right? And I'm not saying that it's an invalid opinion or an invalid thought, but a lot of people are scared in terms of understanding Juan Soto and if he's actually worth this sort of value, because this is uncharted territory that only one player in the history of the game has ever crossed, right? And that's Shohei Ohtani, who is a two-way player. Juan Soto is not a two-way player, right? He's also not a very good defender. We are going to be very blunt and very honest about that. But what he does well and what his strong suit is, he does it at a masterful level. And what he does at a masterful level, quite simply, is what the Mets need to keep on pace and on par with the Los Angeles Dodgers and what their team outlook is over the next decade plus. And that's just a simple fact of the matter. And the extra money on top of that, because as I said in the live stream yesterday that we did, Juan Soto in an ideal scenario, all things consistent, yeah, he's probably not close, not even close to being worth $700 million. He's more of like the $500 million range or the $450 range, right? More than Aaron Judge, but less than Ohtani because of the lack of the two-way presence. But supply and demand is a very real thing, ladies and gentlemen. Not only in baseball, the same thing could be said in all professional sports when these contracts are sort of presenting themselves, right, for free agents of the highest caliber at each level for these different sports. In baseball, it seems a little bit exacerbated, but it's like, at the end of the day, you have to realize that Juan Soto, at the very minimum, in terms of the most barest definition, is a hot commodity Teams want him. And now we know 4 teams want him enough to pay him that $700 million. And again, if you are in the camp of that's too much money, the Mets should just be out, then again, I think that's wishful thinking in terms of spreading that money around, because what is the plan after that? Yes, there are other free agents that the Mets can get. And yes, they can still have a successful offseason if they don't get Juan Soto. But if he's been the Mets' plan A all along, and I think that we all can truly agree that the Mets have been circling this day on their calendar ever since he got traded to the Yankees, knowing who his agent was. Yes, I had my reservations that he was going to actually hit free agency. I thought the Yankees were going to lock him up and re-sign him during the season. But guess what? He's on the open market. And I guarantee you that Steve Cohen, David Stearns, the Mets organization, everybody in this organization, right, circled this time on their calendar last year and knowing that they would be one of the finalists for Juan Soto. And now that the time is here, because he's now all of a sudden worth $700 million plus, we're going to shy away from it? I don't think so. I don't buy into that narrative.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like teams that are involved are scared of that. Clearly, there's not one team here that are massively overpaying, and people are saying, what are they crazy? Not too long ago, I know it's probably about 10, 15, maybe about 15 years ago, people were outraged that a player was getting over $200 million, right? And then somebody was outraged that somebody was getting $300 million, $400 million, right? So at some point in history in baseball, there was always a set of fans that are like, how can you pay a player $200 million? Nobody's worth that. Well, now it's kind of the norm that great players get over $200 million easily, and even some $300 million. So there was always a taboo price or a taboo number that people were just going insane about. I mean, just 15 years ago, $200 million was taboo, was crazy. Now $200 million, we don't even blink an eye anymore. So, I'm not saying $700 million is the norm, but when you're a top 3 player, top 5 player, you're probably going to be around that mark of $500, $600, $700 million. It's just what it is. And these guys are generational players. And for anybody who believes that Juan Soto is not generational, I mean, you could discuss that, sure. But generational players are usually guys that have great offenses. And you could talk about the average all you want. 285 is basically 300 in Major League Baseball now. It's rare that a player hits 300, and if that player does hit 300, they're usually not hitting 35 to 40 home runs and not knocking in 100 RBIs, right? Luis Ariz is a guy who bats well over 300, but he's not a home run hitter. He's not an RBI guy, right? Do we see him as a great player, right? Is everybody knocking on his door to give him $500 million because he's over 300 hitter? No, because what gives that price range to a player? It is home runs, RBIs, and what you do in the playoffs. And this guy does everything in the playoffs that you need. This guy steps up. He hit a huge home run. I was watching MLB Network earlier when they're talking about Juan Soto. Guess who got them to the World Series, right? That huge home run. There's so much you can look into that. Guys who step up in the playoffs, I think deserve more money than guys that, do you think Juan Soto deserves more than Aaron Judge? I mean, that can be a question.
Yeah, I do.
In general, right? And we talked about this on Hot Stove yesterday, right? I agree with you. I think he deserves more than Aaron Judge. And people are like, what are you, nuts? Yeah, because I want guys who deserve that money step up in the biggest moments. Aaron Judge has batted 200 and God knows how many strikeouts in the playoffs in his career. And they still were able to give him $40 million because what he's done during the season. If that's the only thing that mattered, then it wouldn't be the talk of Yankee fans. As right after the World Series happened, guess what they talked about? We don't care about Aaron Judge and his MVPs anymore. We don't care what he does in the regular season anymore. Now it's front and center that nobody cares about Aaron Judge now. 2 years after he signed that big contract. All they care about is playoff performance. Why do you think the Yankees are talking about Juan Soto like they are? Because is there a possibility that the Yankees could be worse than last year, considering the fact that if they don't get Juan Soto, yeah, they can go and pivot out and get other players and, allocate that money elsewhere. But they haven't made a World Series.
Rob, I think you're being too nice. Let's just because I know there's Yankees fans in here. You're being too nice. Their lineup is trash. Their lineup outside of Aaron Judge is trash. I'm sorry. It's just the fact of the matter. Their lineup is not good. And even with Juan Soto and Aaron Judge being those two guys in the middle of the order, it's a very easy path around those two guys for the rest of their lineup. And the Mets showed that they could beat the Yankees, right, last season by avoiding those two guys. So I don't want to hear Yankees fans as the main selling point for Juan Soto coming back to their team, having Aaron Judge alongside him, because the rest of your lineup is not good. It's not good. And I'm just tired of that narrative. So again, at the end of the day, Yankees fans, there's a lot of other things that you can say. Juan Soto is coming back to the Yankees because of XYZ reasons. But don't tell us because it is because of your lineup and Aaron Judge. That is the last reason that we want to hear, because it's not good. It's not good. And the ownership group knows that too.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you. Like, it was obvious, right? I think there was a lot of people, and the Yankee fans are kind of blind to this. They got an easy road to the World Series. And if you look at what the Yankees did in the World Series against the Royals, the Indians, the Guardians, excuse me, they made a tremendous amount of mistakes defensively, offensively, and base running wise, that if they were facing really good teams, unlike the two teams I just mentioned, they would have took advantage of those mistakes. And when the Yankees made similar mistakes than they did in the ALCS and the ALDS, they actually played a good team in the Dodgers that took advantage of those mistakes. And the Dodgers did not let their mistakes go by the wayside, because that's how the Yankees won. We all know that, right? And we all know Aaron Judge had nothing to do with the Yankees getting to the World Series. It was Giancarlo Stanton and Juan Soto. And it's a fact that Aaron Judge has not taken the Yankees to the promised land or took them to the World Series until Juan Soto was on your team. And this is what an overrated Volpe. This is with a Jazz Chisholm at the deadline that, I thought that was a good trade for them. But he was garbage in the postseason. And I don't think he's as good as he was a few years back with the Marlins when he first came up. I don't think he's that same player anymore. I think he's one of those cocky guys that thinks he's better than he is. And the Yankees have a lot of holes. And even with Juan Soto, and this is what we talked about, Chris, where Juan Soto to the Yankees isn't the only thing they need, right? They have no second baseman. They have no first baseman. Depending on what they do with Jazz Chisholm, it's either no third baseman or no second baseman, right? Jason Dominguez, their top prospect, couldn't catch a ball last year and didn't even get a chance to play in the playoffs because they didn't trust him. And that is a top prospect that Yankee fans didn't want to trade, and Brian Cashman didn't want to trade. So there's a lot that they're lacking, even if they do get Juan Soto. Now, will Juan Soto help? Absolutely, right? Clearly, they got him to the World Series. But there's American League teams that are going to be better this year. And you do wonder, and Yankee fans, you have to answer to yourself this too. Even if you get Juan Soto, do you really, truly believe in Hal Steinbrenner going to go over that Steve Cohen luxury tax? Because he's very close of hitting it if he gets Juan Soto. If the number is what we think it's going to be, it's going to be $50 million, if not a little bit more per year. You're already paying more for Juan Soto than Aaron Judge. And now you're on the precipice of that luxury tax. What is it, maybe $12 to $50 million before you hit that third luxury tax, that Steve Cohen tax? You really think Hal Steinbrenner is going to do that? Because to get better, you need the pieces that I just mentioned. Oh, by the way, you do also need another starting pitcher other than Garrett Cole, unless
Rob,
you're going to put Stroman as your number two.
Let's take a look at this. Catchers, Austin Wells, right? Let's just take a look at who they have besides Juan Soto, right? Both teams remaining consistent with no Juan Soto. Let's just take a look at this. You got Austin Wells. You've got Jazz Chisholm, DJ LeMahieu. Who else? Dominguez, Grisham, who just hit 190. Aaron Judge. I mean, is that Oswald Peraza? Oswaldo Cabrera. That's the nucleus of your lineup? I mean, again, admittedly, I don't watch that much Yankees baseball. But what I do know, as well as any other fans of the game, and Yankees fans know this too, they're just going to try to pivot to the pitching front. Because, again, the Yankees pitching, I'm not afraid to admit, the Yankees pitching is a hell of a lot better than their offense is, right? Hell of a lot better. It is.
Oh, sure.
It still has flaws, but it's still a hell of a lot better. But Yankees fans, you look at your active roster right now with no Juan Soto, and even if you did have Juan Soto, are you confident in that? Are you confident in that offense? That offensive nucleus? Come on. It's not even a discussion at this point.
Yeah, I agree. And David, you could say, why are the Met fans ugly? You can keep on trolling, just like yesterday with Clay Holmes. And there was about 5 or 6 Yankee fans that were in here trolling. For what reason? When they were like, oh, Clay Holmes is garbage. Yet I was giving you the numbers over and over again where he had outstanding numbers. He's been one of the best bullpen arms in baseball. And I still don't agree with trying to put him out as a starter. But if you do it in spring training as an experiment and he's not good, guess where he's going? Where he thrived as a setup man or a 7th inning guy in the bullpen for the New York Mets. And you got him on a lot lower contract-wise than a lot of people thought he was going to get. People were thinking he was going to get 4 years, $55, $60 million as a closer. And the Mets are not using him as a closer. And Yankee fans forget how good he actually was as a closer. And yeah, last year he lost the closer's role, but when they did put him in the 7th inning, the 6th inning, the 8th inning, and in the playoffs, by the way, he was one of your best bullpen arms in the postseason, other than Luke Weaver. Like they soon forget that. And I can assure you, right? And people are like, oh, why would the Mets spend money on that? Because they need bullpen help. And if Clay Holmes does become a competent starter, he can be a number 5 or number 6 or even a number 4, right? Not saying that he's going to be a good starter, but you know what? We laughed at Seth Lugo becoming a starter. Yankee fans know about Michael King. The Yankees didn't want to make him a starter. They had him in the bullpen. Look what he's done for San Diego, right? Hicks, look what he's done, coming from the bullpen to the starter. So it's not like the Mets have this idea and they're the only team that has this idea to turn a reliever into a starter again once they've been successful in the bullpen, right? Teams have done this already. Seth Lugo is one of the better starting pitchers in baseball, and the Mets never wanted to make him a starter. Maybe that's fault of the Mets. But look at the dominant relievers that have great arms that teams have decided to make them starters. That is something that is a trend that's happening in Major League Baseball. MLB Network was talking about it, that it's starting to become a trend now that guys who have been successful in the bullpen and have more than 2 pitchers and have 3 or 4 pitchers, they're starting to move them into the rotation. You want to know why? One, because starting pitching is outrageously expensive, even mediocre pitchers. Luis Severino got $22 million. Frankie Montas got $17 million. Yusei Kikuchi got $21 million. We can go on and on here, right? Average pitchers are getting overpaid because pitching is a premium. Pitching is expensive. So why wouldn't you change Seth Lugo into a starter? Why not Michael King to a starter? Why not Hicks into a starter? Why not here with the Mets, Clay Holmes as a possibility as a starter? See, not just Met fans, it's also other, especially Yankee fans, acting like, oh, you're going to change him into a starting pitcher. The word is they're going to try him out as a starter. That doesn't mean in game 1 of the season, he's going to be the ace of the staff and pitching in game 1. They're going to try him out. And what do you do in spring training? You experiment. That's what you do. You see where guys are good at or not good at, and then you put them in the best position to succeed as an individual and as a team. And I truly believe, I'm sorry, Chris, I truly believe that Clay Holmes is going to end up as a setup man for Edwin Diaz at the end of the day. I don't think he's going to be a starter. The only way Clay Holmes is going to be a starter is if he's absolutely lights out. He can't be average. He has to be lights out in spring training as a starter. And there's no bad thing of stretching a guy out and then throwing him in the bullpen to start the season. There's nothing wrong with that. Spring training is experimentation time.
So, first of all this to say in terms of the rant that I just went on personally is that, listen, the Yankees lineup sucks. We all know it. It's fine. They have a good pitching nucleus. I'm going to give that to them. And the only reason why I'm bringing this up is that we've had this discussion in terms of what could be the potential pivot point for Juan Soto going elsewhere, and knowing that if he goes back to the Yankees, they are not making many other offensive upgrades outside of him. And their lineup, as bad as it is, even with him inside of it, is just like, what sense would that make? So all this to say, Yankees lineup, not so great. Yankees pitching, pretty good, right? I will give that to them. Pretty good. But at the end of the day, what is the common theme here? And Yankees fans in the chat right now, they're resorting to Mets suck. However many years of losing, the Yankees have won a World Series and multiple World Series back a decade plus, 09. If you want to keep clinging on to the World Series, that's fine, 100%. But I can guarantee you, being in pinstripes in the Bronx is not as enticing to these players as you want to make it out to be. It was for Aaron Judge. Congratulations, 100%. But that is losing its value, because if winning is the end goal, the Yankees are not the evil empire anymore. I'm sorry to break that news to a lot of Yankees fans. They're not the evil empire anymore. And it just hurts Yankees fans at this point to watch Steve Cohen consistently being in the running for these superstar players, because all they're used to is the Wilpons making these negotiations and these deals and just being out on them, so to speak, right? And it hurts them. But it's okay. We understand that. We're here to comfort Yankees fans and let them know that it's okay. With the Mets being on the uprise, the Yankees can still be good. I don't have anything against the Yankees. I'm being objective and telling you guys that the lineup is not good. It's objective. Anywho, at the end of the day, Clay Holmes, I 100% agree. We both dropped reaction videos to the Clay Holmes signing. I do think they're going to try him out as a starting pitcher. Do I think that it's a risky sort of project to go into the starting rotation? Yeah, 100%. I do think that, right? I don't know how he's going to project out, because the last time that he started was back in 2018. He's got to develop a fifth pitch, and he's got to utilize his four-seam fastball a lot more. But at the worst, you're trying to sell me on the fact that you can have Clay Holmes in the 8th and Edwin Diaz in the 9th? That's what you're trying to sell me? Guess what? I'm buying that all day long. That is an elite 8-9 combo. And guess what? Has anyone mentioned the fact that David Stearns was able to get him at $1 million under his actual projected AAV? Has anyone mentioned that he signed a friendlier deal than he was actually supposed to for one less year? Masterful job by Mr. David Stearns. I love it. I love the signing. And again, this is just alluding to the fact that the Mets are stacking arms, Rob. They're stacking arms that can do both. And this is why I think that a pitcher like Walker Buehler is right up the Mets' alley in terms of being able to do both. And the Mets will just figure it out during the season and piece it together, and they will be okay on the pitching front. Again, the job is not done in terms of stacking these arms, but with Montas and Clay Holmes, that's a decent start. And I think that we both agree that they need that ace. But again, this is just a start.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny because, like, Yankee fans are not used to, you know, the Mets actually making solid moves. And it was always the Yankees. You know, everybody wanted them to go to the Yankees. It's a little bit disappointing that to Yankee fans that there's some players, a lot of players now, that are seeing the Mets in a different realm. And I'll be the first one to tell you, the Mets clubhouse, the Mets organization, even a few years back when Cohen first took over the team, there was players skeptical about going to the Mets. Even when Cohen just took over the team, right? It was obvious in the Correas, the Springers, guys like that who decided to go elsewhere. It wasn't because of the money. It was also because, you know, they didn't trust the Mets organization yet. That's been changed over the last couple of seasons, right? I know 2022 was, you know, it was a huge issue because what happened at the end of the year, and 2023 ended up being a terrible situation as well. But that following year in 2024, when nobody expected anything, it was one of the best. And it wasn't even just the Mets fans, the Mets players talking about the aura, the vibe around the Mets clubhouse and the organization and how people want to be a Met. It was other teams talking about it after they played the Mets, and just a different type of, organizational vibe that other players were talking about post game. And even after the season, we're talking about when they faced the Mets, how different it was than even a couple of years ago. Right? The first, before you start winning, Yankee fans can attest to this. Before the Yankees started winning, what did they change? They changed the philosophy. They changed the organizational way of doing things, right? It wasn't George Steinbrenner spending all this money, acting like he was spending all this money and buying championships. I'd be the first one to tell you that, right? It took George Steinbrenner getting suspended and finally keeping some of your prospects, like the Derek Jeters of the world. Oh, by the way, George Steinbrenner was willing to trade a year before that, before he came up. Right? It was the Mariano Rivera's, who was a failed starter, who became a great closer and the best closer in baseball history. Right? It takes those type of shifts in an organization to make an organization be what they are and be what they become. The Yankees are a known franchise around the world and one of the top franchises in sports history because of the fact of a slight change in philosophy that changed everything about the New York Yankees. And yes, winning has a lot to do with it. But the change of philosophy, instead of buying, the stars over and over again and trading all your prospects and just trying to get the high-priced players, isn't always the success that you think the Yankees always had. It took a dynasty that involved Paul O'Neill, trading for Tino Martinez, Paul O'Neill, making that big David Justice trade in 2000, right? It's those things. It was Luis Sojo getting the big hit in the World Series against the Mets, right? Derek Jeter was never the best shortstop in baseball, never won an MVP. But you know what he was good at? The playoffs. He destroyed teams in the playoffs, right? It wasn't always the best players. And I think Yankee fans are finding themselves in a situation where we're acting like we're disrespecting the Yankees as a team organization history. We're not. We know
No, absolutely not.
the championships. We know they're the most successful franchise in sports history. We understand that. But they aren't the Yankees of the late 90s. They aren't that. They haven't been that.
Nope.
They're just not anymore. And to think that, and Yankee fans still got that idea that they are the Yankees. Nobody's afraid of the Yankees anymore. Right? I ain't gonna lie to you. I remember when I was growing up in the late 90s and early 2000, when I was going to high school, and I was on the baseball team in high school. Everybody was a Yankee fan. I was the only idiot Met fan. Right? I was the only one. And I was afraid to face the Yankees during the Subway Series during the season and in the World Series. We know we were the inferior team, right? It was scary going into old Yankee Stadium. It just felt like a different vibe. It doesn't feel like that anymore. It really doesn't, right? Maybe it was the curse of the Bambino and the Red Sox finally beating the Yankees that changed everything and the aura around the Yankees. But it's not the same anymore. And that doesn't mean the Yankees won't sign Juan Soto, because obviously it's still a possibility. But when Yankee fans still talk about the Yankees like they've won 3 World Series in a row and 4 out of the last 5, like the late 90s, that's 20-something years ago, 24 years ago. It's a long time. And you have 1 World Series in 24 years, and that is a disaster in Yankee standards. So in the last 24 years, it's been one of the worst stretches of Yankee history, and Yankee fans don't want to talk about that, but that is one of the worst stretches in their history in World Series. 1 World Championship in 23, 24 years. That's a disaster in Yankee standards. So they don't want to talk about that. So they have to kill the Mets. And that's okay. We know we haven't won since 86. We understand that. And we don't hide from that. But Yankee fans seem to hide the fact that they weren't as good as they actually, they're not as good as they are trying, like they're trying to hide that they weren't that good. And it's funny to me. And there's a reason why you need Juan Soto. The Mets didn't need Juan Soto to get to Game 6 of the NLCS when the Yankees couldn't get to a Game 6 of the World Series. They embarrassed themselves in the World Series. at least the Mets, who were very inferior in overall roster compared to the Dodgers, they also took them to a game 6. We have put a little bit of a scare into the Dodgers. The Yankees never did. Like, that should tell you enough that a bunch of has-beens on the Mets that everybody thought were write-offs, like Severino, like Manaea, like, many guys, without a great year from Alonso, without a good year from Nimmo, still were able to do what they did.
Or Alvarez.
Without Juan Soto, yeah. And it just kills me to say that, I would never say coming up on here and lie to you guys and saying, I can't stand the Yankees. But since I have my channel, I always try to be, I would say, non-biased towards other teams, right? I hate the Phillies and hate the Braves, but I was the first one to say that I give a ton of respect to the Braves and what they've done. That doesn't mean I don't hate them. So it's not here just trying to kill the Yankees here, because it's not. But they are one of the teams that are trying to get Juan Soto. And for the Yankee fans to saying that, oh, he's going to take a little bit less money to go to the Yankees, then why didn't he sign already? He didn't sign already because he wants the most money. And that still might not be the Mets at the end of the day. We don't know. But if he's going to take less money, he would have signed already. And specifically, he would have signed with the Yankees already. Because I truly believe the Yankees are going to have the third best offer compared to the Mets, Yankees, and Red Sox. I just think the Red Sox have fallen out a bit because I think the only reason the Yankees are still involved was because he was part of the organization last year. That is it. But if I would be shocked. And I would eat crow, and I would say this right here on the channel, that I was wrong. I don't believe the Yankees are going to have the biggest offer on the table. I just don't think so. And if they do, I'll be the first one to tell you, and I'm not afraid to do it. I would be here telling you guys that it wasn't the fact that the Yankees did have the biggest offer, and good for them. They outbid the Mets, if that's even possible. And if Juan Soto does take less money, I would also say I was wrong. But I don't see why he would wait this long to take less money to go back to the Yankees. Wouldn't that been the case already? I mean, that just seems like the case. Like, I think he's going to go to the Mets or the Red Sox, in my opinion. Because why wait to take less money when he could already took less money, when we all know the Yankees probably had a little bit less of an offer than the Mets and the Red Sox, in my opinion.
They're holding out hope for this being a Aaron Judge 2.0 situation. That's exactly what they're hoping for.
And they lowballed Aaron Judge, by the way, too.
What was that?
They lowballed Aaron Judge until, that Heyman tweet, as much as everybody kills Heyman, put the fear of God in Hal Steinbrenner and the Yankee fans. And Hal Steinbrenner, where he was on his yacht, praying to God, and had to call Aaron Judge himself because Brian Cashman wasn't even willing to give $40 million to Aaron Judge. Just remember that, Yankee fans. It took Hal Steinbrenner and the scare of God with that Heyman tweet, and had to say, what do you want, Aaron? We need you back. 9 years, 40 mil. Okay, done.
Listen, the other teams, the other team that we really haven't even talked about in the stream as well, I know this is a very Mets-Yankees or Mets versus Yankees oriented, is the Blue Jays. And again, no disrespect to, the city of Toronto or Blue Jays fans and that fan base. The simple fact of the matter is that there's no chance, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, you think otherwise, I don't want to speak for you, but can we just put this Blue Jays thing to rest already? Can we put the Blue Jays thing to rest? Maybe I'm underselling them. Maybe I look like a fool on the off chance of the 0.1% chance they actually go ahead and get it done. And the money isn't the thing, though. It's just not the main problem for them. They, just like the Giants and the multiple reports that you alluded to before, in terms of having a little bit of difficulty, whether it's true or not, right? But we've heard prominent figures talking about the Giants trying to sell players on going to San Francisco. The Blue Jays have the same thing, right? For the same reasons or not, it doesn't really matter what it is, right? It's just the overall destination factor. And that's one advantage that a team like the Dodgers has. That's one advantage that a team like the Yankees and the Mets have. And then probably the only other team that has that advantage, I would say, is probably Boston after that, right? And we all know that Boston is still on the lesser destination scale than New York is or LA is. And New York is obviously, if history is, right over the past couple of seasons, especially with Ohtani, New York is probably secondary to LA. And that's what makes it a little bit hard, right, for the Mets and the Yankees to compete for these free agents like Yamamoto, like Ohtani. And oh, by the way, like Roki Sasaki, who's going to be posted in the next coming days. And by the way, guys, I'm going to post a Roki Sasaki video tomorrow morning on the channel. It will be released tomorrow morning early. Spoiler alert. Again, I don't think he's coming to New York. I don't think he's coming to New York. So I'll just spoil that for you. But I will be posting a video of a little bit of a breakdown of the type of pitcher that he is and the situation with the Mets surrounding Sasaki. But listen, again, Toronto does have the money 100%. But again, you talk about destination, you talk about team fit, right? You talk about if you are hurt by me saying that the Yankees roster or their lineup is not good enough, right? If that's what Juan Soto is looking at, then you don't even want to know what I have to say about the Blue Jays, because again, the Blue Jays are in flux. They're in flux as a team right now. They don't even know if they're going to keep Vlad Guerrero Jr. if he hits free agency with them. This is like a Pete Alonso 2.0 situation, to be honest with you, right? And so, again, it's just a fact of the matter is that the Blue Jays have a hard time convincing free agents to come their way, and also having a team that has underperformed over the past couple of seasons just simply doesn't help. And I think the last big name free agent that went to the Blue Jays over a team like the New York Mets was George Springer, if I'm not mistaken, right? I can't think of another big name free agent that was prioritizing Toronto and the Blue Jays over a bigger market team.
Kevin Gausman?
Yeah, I guess Gausman.
The Mets were in on him.
Yeah, I guess you could say Kevin Gausman too. So I'll stand corrected on that 100%. But I always think of the George Springer debacle because I always thought that George Springer, again, was the sure thing for the New York Mets in terms of the outfield, even more so than Kevin Gausman. But yeah, I mean, I'll defer to that. Kevin Gausman for sure. But again, my stance on that is the same, right? I mean, Rob, what do you think? Blue Jays, are they actual players, even if they do offer up $700+ million?
Yeah, I think it's more of the Canadian tax rate, which is outrageously high. And you think the Juan Soto and the Mets and Yankees have a New York tax? The Blue Jays would have to give about $75 to $100 million more just to come even. When it comes, they would have to go to $800 million, I think, and maybe they will. And maybe that would be enough. But I think it's more, if it's true with Juan Soto is looking at the roster and looking at the guys around him and looking at the organizational depth, like system-wise, prospect-wise, the Blue Jays aren't it, right? There's a lot of talk about Vlad Guerrero getting traded. There's a pretty good chance Vlad Guerrero is not signing back with the Toronto Blue Jays, right? And, all those prospects that came up a couple of years ago or 4 or 5 years ago never really turned out to be as great as they were supposed to be, even though Vlad Guerrero has been. They've been underperformed the last few seasons. How many times have we thought the Toronto Blue Jays were going to win a division and they never came up to that level? So, can Juan Soto change that? Yeah, I would think. I mean, that's huge in that lineup, and Toronto's trying to go for it. But I think location, I think the tax rate in Canada, I think that's a huge deal to a lot of players. And no, Toronto's not Siberia, right? It's, it's what, a few hours drive from New York itself, depending on where you are. So it's not like it's a crazy destination, but it is another country, right?
Yep.
It is, you got to take out that passport just to go back to the States. Like, it's so close to New York, yet so far. Like, I think that's why Toronto is having that issue.
Hey,
unfortunately.
We got some breaking news here. John Heyman tweeting out Tyler O'Neill to the Baltimore Orioles, 3 years, $49.5 million, an opt-out after the 2025 season. Again, we know this is Soto watch, but again, we are all still just paying attention to this. Tyler O'Neill, kind of a sneaky season, right? 31 home runs for the Boston Red Sox, had a really big campaign, a bounce back performance for them. And the power is not a question with Tyler O'Neill. So I think that's a pretty good pickup for Baltimore. And it's good that he has the opt out. It's really essentially a prove it year deal for Tyler O'Neill going to Baltimore. So that just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, a lot of these, opt outs after the first year has been very prominent over the last 2 seasons for a lot of players. They would sign 3-year deals. They got that security if they don't have good seasons, but able to opt out after that year if they have a really good season. That's a good deal for the Orioles, and that just kind of puts in perspective that Anthony Santander is not returning to the Orioles, even though I think a lot of people thought he wasn't anyway, even if they didn't get O'Neill. I think everybody thought Santander is going elsewhere because he's going to get a tremendous amount of money. So because he is the next best outfielder, if not one of the second best guys on the market, other than Juan Soto. And there's also a plan B. So O'Neill is a Boras client, correct? So O'Neill had a good year with the Red Sox and 31 home runs. You would think the home runs would go down a little bit considering that the dimension change of Camden Yards. They changed it a lot. Left field, I think they moved it like 20 feet back and even made more changes this year again. It's harder to hit home runs there. So there you go. And I do apologize for the super chats. I just clicked on all of them. So, Chris, if you give me a second, let me just click on it really quick. There's a new member, Jeffrey Battle. Thank you for becoming a member. Henrik, I saw it earlier, and then I just got lost on my phone a little bit for some news. It's between the Sox and the Mets. The Yankees do not have the budget to sign him. Oh, they have the budget. They can sign him. I don't know if they can do anything else after that, but they do it. I don't think it's the Red Sox that are the favorite over the Yankees. I find that hard to believe. Mets have almost $200 million coming off the books. Yeah, that's why I think, where people like, the Mets are only going to do Soto. We all know they're not because they have a lot of money coming off the payroll. I think the Mets are going to get one more position player to bring other than Juan Soto. If that's Pete Alonso, if that's somebody else, I think that's the case. So, Henrik, I don't think the Red Sox and the Mets are the 2 favorites. I think it's Mets and Yankees. And I think me and Chris already talked about that. And Jonathan just put a super chat that says, how much the first Soto salary will LA pool? I mean, you always worry about that, right? Always in the back of our minds, the Dodgers might just pop up out of nowhere and saying, we'll give you $800 million, but the first $400 million, we're not going to give you until the year 3000, so, you just want, you always have that in the back of your mind, considering what the Dodgers have pulled the last couple of seasons with all this deferred money. But the Dodgers,
he's not going to LA. He's not going to LA.
I'd be shocked, but it is people are still talking about it like the Dodgers can pop up out of nowhere. I mean, listen, if that happens, I mean, let's just close up shop, guys. Like it's insane. Like how are they continuing to do that? So I don't think the Dodgers are that much in on it. And Jonathan, thank you for the super chat. All right, because if you want to, talk
what do you?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No. Before we get into the discussion of the potential debate that essentially we probably are going to have here in just a second regarding this lineup, if Juan Soto and Pete Alonso are both in it, what do you think of the latest report? Again, I hate to even bring this up because, again, it's from an unconfirmed source, and I tweeted something out under this tweet and this report, and I was kind of like, where is your source? Is he in the room, or is he or she in the room with us? And I put out like a ghost GIF, because this guy, Mike Rodriguez, over on X, has been just very adamant about Juan Soto for this entire offseason. And I got to give the guy credit. Like, he's putting in the work, he's putting in the time. But again, we haven't seen anything that's backing up his claims. But per Mike Rodriguez, and again, the usual suspect in Hector Gomez, saying that he can confirm the report, saying that, and Carlos Ramos definitely knows what I was talking about, because he replied to my tweet on there. I had to do it. I mean, I've seen too much from that guy already. But he was saying 730 for 15 years from the Mets to Juan Soto, which puts him at $48.67 million per season, which is right around what I expected from the start for Juan Soto. Everybody was asking me, I don't care about I don't care about what the total contract is. I don't care about that value. It's how many years you're giving him and what the AAV ends up being in terms of how much space he is taking up of your payroll. And from the start, I was very confident that $48 million per year, whether it was for, 13, 14, 15 years, was going to get it done for Juan Soto, and that was the most realistic. Mm-hmm. And so 730 for 15. What do you think, Rob? Again, despite who's tweeting this out, whether we believe in this report or not, what do you think of the actual contract within itself of $730 million over 15 years, which would put Juan Soto, as crazy as it is, at 41 years old, making $48 million. And again, I will say that there is expected to be a lot of creativeness. There's expected to be a lot of creativeness amongst whoever gives out this contract in terms of opt-outs and everything else that, teams can get around to make this deal go through. But just take a look at it at face value. 41 years old, making $48 million on your team, just above. What do you think?
I mean, I always thought it was going to be over $700 million. I said it from the jump. Only because, when there's competition for the same player, the price is going to go up. And when people were talking about 500, 600 million, I'm like, yeah, I mean, 600 million was, more of the norm. But when you got multiple teams fighting for you and going back and forth with offers, which I'm assuming has been the case over the last week and a half, it's going to jump up to that point. The same way the Yamamoto jumped up. Nobody thought he was going to get over $100 million. And with the competition being what it was, it got it up to $300 million because the Yankees, Dodgers, and Mets were involved. And the same thing in this case, even though the Dodgers are kind of like on the back burner here, it's still the Mets, Yankees, and Red Sox who were jumping up the price. That's why the price got up to that point, because of the competition. And again, if they're still jockeying for the best offer, there's too many teams that want him for that price where it's not an insane number. It's really not, because of his age. And because it's 41, I don't care about the age of 41 years old. I care about the first 4 to 7 years. That's where you're really going to, see what that team that gets Juan Soto, you're really going to care, because at that 4 to 7 year mark, Aaron Judge is going to be 35, 36 years old. Pete Alonso is going to be 34, 35 years old. Lindor, they're going to get up there in age. So you're not looking past that, basically, when you're probably going to bring in younger guys to help Juan Soto, who's not going to be good at the age of 35 probably. And that's 10 years from now. So it's basically more than half the contract. So, we forget about that. Like, age is a factor here, guys, right? This guy in 10 years is only going to be 36 years old. It's going to be 36 years old, right? You can have 5 to 7 years. In 7 years, he's going to be 32. Lindor is that now. Lindor is going to be that soon. Alonso's going to be that just now. Like, it's right there. And it's still 5 years away or 6 years away for Juan Soto.
Which is why you need to go out and get an ace, right?
Well, this is the reason why I say that if you're going to go that, and this goes for the Yankees, this goes for the Red Sox as well. But obviously, this is a Mets channel for us. We're Mets fans. It goes for any team that signs Juan Soto. If you're the Yankees and you have Aaron Judge, how many more years of great years you're going to have for him? With him, maybe 3 or 4, pushing 5 years. So that's the realm that you're looking at for Juan Soto to be MVP caliber. Same thing with Juan Soto and Lindor for the Mets. Same thing for Devers and Duran. How many more years are you going to get? Or especially Devers, 5 more years of greatness? That's the scope you have to look at. Unfortunately, it's going to take over 12, 13, 14, 15 years to get Juan Soto. And you're not looking at year 12, 10 to 15. You're looking at 1 through 7. That's what you're looking at here. And I'm if you're not fine with that number because it scares you away, that's why the team that gets Juan Soto has to do more. And I think we're all confident the Mets are going to bring in one more bat other than Juan Soto if they get him. Right? I think everybody believes, because just the way the Mets roster is, they have to bring in 2 bats, right? If they don't get Juan Soto, they have Marte as a right fielder, but Marte's not stopping them from getting Juan Soto. And I don't think it's stopping them from getting an Anthony Santander, to be quite honest with you. It's not. And to bring back Pete Alonso, I think it's part of that. So we all expect the Mets to bring in 2 bats, depending on what bats you think they're going to bring to the table. That's up for debate. But you have to do more. And that's why you have to get the ace if you're the Mets, right? Because there is a time frame, and I guarantee you the Mets are talking about this with Lindor and Alonso, right? I know Ken was talking about the other day about, why are you bringing up Pete Alonso's age? Because it's relevant. It's relevant because in 5 years, does anybody believe that at 35, 36 years old, Pete Alonso is going to be the same player he is right now? No. Same thing with Francisco Lindor. Same thing with Brandon Nimmo. So you got that 3 to 4, I would say 5-year range with Juan Soto and the guys that you have on your team, depending on what team he goes to. There's a range there where your core that you're adding Juan Soto to has that time frame to work with, and that's why going for it and getting that ace, which if it is a Corbin Burnes, you're looking at that 3 to 4, 5-year window with these guys. That's the point that I'm trying to make about. It's not just about Juan Soto. It's about the guys that you already gave contracts to, depending on what team you are, Red Sox, Mets, Yankees, you gave contracts to Nimmo, to Lindor, possibly Alonso. That you have to be looking at how many prime years you still have left of those guys, and that's why you get Juan Soto. That's why you get better as a roster, because those guys probably have about 4 to 5 years of really good seasons left, and you can't waste those. And that's why I think it's that price range. Yeah, do it. It's not going to hurt the Mets from doing other things. At least.
No, I agree with you. I think again, we're both on board with this move happening, whether it's 700, 701, 730, 750, just get it done. Make Juan Soto a New York Met at this point. This is probably the easiest way to build a fantastic 1 through 5 in your lineup. Mm-hmm. Of course, even with Soto, I think that we both can agree that, especially with how crafty the Mets have been in terms of the pitching front, right? I think that, again, they have, even if they give Juan Soto $50 million a year, right? I think that's 48 to 50, whatever. They still got almost $100 million left to play with, right? In terms of the salary, maybe, or the payroll, maybe 95, somewhere around there. So you can go ahead and sign another bat. Like, it's not an issue. They can go ahead and sign Pete Alonso for $28 million and make him the highest paid first baseman, right? They can do that. They have the luxury of doing that. And they could still go out and give a starting pitcher their money if they wanted to.
Correct.
But they can also trade, right? Because they have that prospect capital. So again, like Juan Soto or not, and especially in the case of with Juan Soto, Mets fans, like, it's not going to just stop at Juan Soto. So again, if you're worried about there being no room for other allocation outside of Juan Soto, that's not an issue for the Mets. That is an issue for the Yankees. This is 2 different scenarios. And this is what we've been saying over the past couple of weeks to over a month as we've been talking about this Juan Soto situation. So again, there's a lot of different avenues for the Mets to explore. I'm very happy that the Mets have already explored the routes of, Clay Holmes and Frankie Montas. But again, I do think at the end of the day that this front office understands what the Dodgers are doing. And I see some Dodgers fans in the chat. I believe they're in your chat, not in mine. In the fact that Roki Sasaki is probably favored to go to the Los Angeles Dodgers, right? It's going to be international free agent pool money. The Mets don't have that right now because they're expected to allocate $5 million worth of a signing bonus of that IFA money to Elian Pena, right, for the 2025 class, which is going to leave them with what, $1 million, maybe a little bit less to work with for any other international free agents, which is what Roki Sasaki falls under because he's not old enough to be eligible for a deal like Yamamoto got. So again, would be very highly doubtful that he is going to be a New York Met. But there's other avenues to build this team, Mets fans. I promise you. I absolutely promise you. So again, IFA money has nothing to do with it. Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, he probably wants to go to the West Coast. Again, if you are just late to this stream, I literally blatantly just said LA is more of a destination, especially for the Japanese players coming over from the NPB than New York is, right? There's a specific reason for that geographically. So you have that advantage. I'm sorry. New York can't just shift itself over to the West Coast just for the sake of these players. We have to play with what we're given here in terms of the geography. So I understand that. But IFA money also does have a very big impact on it because, again, the Mets don't have that even opportunity to approach Sasaki with an offer for that level. So, again, not to take away from the Soto conversation, I kind of want to talk about where Soto fits into this lineup now. I think we've gone through the majority of the stream being an hour and 10 minutes to talk about our situational debate on where Juan Soto would fit into the 2025 New York Mets lineup if he were to join the Mets.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I have a de facto lineup here. Obviously, this needs to have a Juan Soto, Pete Alonso sign in for the New York Mets. And the only reason why I put Juan Soto third, that's not my idea of it, because we have a graphic that Chris sent to me that I'm going to make him discuss a little bit, as I'll put it up in a little bit, but I want everybody to look at the lineup here, right? The numbers that you're going to see in this graphic relates to why Juan Soto is number 3 in this graphic here at the bottom right of your screen. The reason why I put it there is because if you look at the graphic, you'll see why I put him in that spot, even though I don't know, maybe it changed my mind a little bit why he might bat third, and more reasons why I think because I like Vientos number 2. It's just a matter of Juan Soto does like that 2-hole, and that's been prominent throughout his career. He loves that 2-hole. And that's probably the reason why I might think that's where they might lean him in the lineup. But changing into the lineup here, and looking at the new graphic that I thought I had up. Oh, I do. Here. Sorry about that. So much crazy backgrounds that I have here. All right, so let me just change the background right now so we can discuss it. And it looks like this. And Chris, take it away and why you put that graphic up there.
Yeah, listen, I posted a clip of our previous Hot Stove Live when we were discussing our 1 through 5 scenario if Juan Soto and Pete Alonso were both to be New York Mets in 2025. And we were talking about, what we would have our 1 through 5 in the order being with both of those guys there alongside Vientos, Nimmo, and Lindor. And surprisingly, to my honest surprise, I got a lot of pushback on that. And I understand why I got pushback on it. And I'm open to that line of thinking. And we'll discuss that right here. Because again, Juan Soto was in Rob's number 2 spot when he gave his top 5. And Juan Soto was in my number 4 spot when I gave my top 5. This is a graphic of Juan Soto's career splits at each position in a batting order, whether it's with the Nationals, whether it's with the Padres or the Yankees, right? Again, you can just deduce 2, 3, or 4 is where he has spent the primary years of his career in any given lineup. A lot of people carry the philosophy, and this is a very new school philosophy of making lineups, that you put your best hitter in the 2 spot. And the reason for that is that because you get the first inning at bat, and if a team goes 1, 2, 3 in however many games of the season, you are projected to have those top 3 hitters are projected to have however many more at bats or at least plate appearances than any other guy in your order. Whereas in the old school line of thinking, you would have one of your better, more powerful hitters in your 4 spot. Now, again, I understand this line of thinking. And again, I'm trying to dumb it down, so I apologize if I'm over-explaining this too much. I'm just trying to explain it for the sake of the debate that we're just about to have here. I understand the notion of batting Juan Soto second. You see here, he's had pretty good success hitting .268 in his career, batting second, 483 slugging percentage, and 890 OPS. Really, the OPS going from batting second, third, or fourth I mean, you're going to take any single one of those, even batting fifth, right? All right, 6-2. Okay, 7-2. But again, not that much sample size there, right? But again, at the end of the day, for me, this conversation, just to preface before we get fully into it, is if this hypothetical situation is if the Mets have both Juan Soto and Pete Alonso in their lineup, if they sign Juan Soto and are successful in re-signing Pete Alonso, right? This is the hypothetical situation. So my question is, where would you put Juan Soto? Where is the best spot to put Juan Soto?
Yeah.
But you don't only have to think about Juan Soto in this situation because he can thrive for you at any single level. He can thrive in the 2 spot. He can thrive in the 3 spot. He can thrive in the 4 spot. And if you really wanted to, which at this point, it's not really a thought process, he can thrive in the 5 spot too. But you also have to think about what is going to make Pete Alonso the best hitter that he could possibly be, even given or while given the 2024 production that he gave you with runners in scoring position. And so therefore, right, when we transition to the other graphic, while Rob's, after Rob speaks about this graphic right here, I'm in the line of thinking that no matter if you bat Pete Alonso 2 or 3, it doesn't matter. You have to have Juan Soto behind Pete Alonso. And so if you look at this right here in this graphic alone, this is exactly why you go ahead and get a guy like Juan Soto to begin with, because he is offensively versatile enough and he is consistent enough in terms of, and this is 180 from the conversation that I was having about Brandon Nimmo and my thought process of moving him from the 1 spot to the 3 spot, because with his approach, I thought Brandon Nimmo could have success anywhere in the lineup and his approach wouldn't change. That wasn't the case. But the way that you can tell if a guy's approach changes, whether he is batting second, third, fourth, fifth, or whatever, is by these numbers right on your screen. You can put Juan Soto in any position in your lineup, and he is not going to change his approach. He will still get on base for you at a very high clip, at over a 400 clip, which is well above league average. And he's done that consistently, batting second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, wherever. This is exactly why you get Juan Soto. But I'll let you speak on this 100%. Right now, because we're going to get into the debate of the actual hypothetical lineup. I don't want to get into the discussion of Pete Alonso and where he fits into this equation. But again, like, how can you not love what you see right here from these numbers, Rob? I mean, honestly.
Yeah, we talked about how, and I'm not putting Nimmo in the realm of Juan Soto, but when Brandon Nimmo got into a number 3 spot, he struggled, right? It's unique for a player to get moved to number 2, number 3, number 4, and still provide that production he still does in those spots in the batting order. And, the majority of his career, he's batted second or third, right? It's obvious with 372 games, 311 games, a lot less in batting 4, but still very good number, really good numbers overall. And before I get more into it, I just wanted to bring up, there's a couple of super chats that I just wanted to bring up. Hernan Abreu, thank you for the super chat. I played high school baseball with him, one of my best friends. I love this guy. We went through the craziness in high school and, the heartbreak of high school at the end. And it was a lot of fun playing baseball with him. And that's my brother right there. So I do appreciate him hopping on and giving a super chat. So I just wanted to shout out to him. And JD, Chris, sorry, it's blocking your face. I apologize for that. Will Soto offer get you $850 million? No, I'd be shocked if it does. I mean, who the hell knows? But definitely not Toronto, in my opinion. So once again, Hernan, I love you, brother. Long time, haven't seen each other, but we were together forever in high school for sure. We were always, we were linked like a chain during high school baseball for sure, and all those goddamn suicides and practice in baseball, like we were the basketball team and track team, but long time ago. But now we're old, so unfortunately we gotta sit down and talk on YouTube because I can't do that anymore for sure. So sorry, Chris. I just wanted to say that long time ago I haven't seen him, but always
100%. Shout out to him, 100%.
Yeah, batting second and third. Like, look at the numbers. Like, I mean, that's why, like, nobody's wrong here, right? I'm not wrong. You're not wrong. Whoever thinks that, nobody believes that Juan Soto should be batting 5th or 6th or 7th or 8th, right? I don't think anybody thinks he's going to bat leadoff because of Lindor, but there's an argument to have 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. There is. Good. Look at just the numbers. So whoever says, oh, I want to bat him 4th, I want to bat him 3rd, I want to bat him 2nd, nobody's going to really complain about it. I mean, you'll have an objective opinion about it, but nobody's going to complain if you see the lineup tomorrow and he bats 3rd or 4th or 2nd. Nobody's going to complain. I'm going to be like, we have Juan Soto. Put him wherever the hell you want. He's going to be productive. He's going to help this team. And these numbers, and I'm so glad you brought this to my attention, even though I probably would have popped it up looked at it myself at some point. I'm glad you brought it to my attention so we could talk about it on day 1 of Juan Soto's watch party. Hopefully it's only 1, but you never know.
Well, we'll see.
Listen, I don't know what the hell we're going to talk about. If it's day 2 of Juan Soto watch party, we kind of expended all of our, little bit of knowledge that we have on this topic right now. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to kill any spot in this order when it comes to Juan Soto, right? He's that good. So I do want to just bring up the fact that it's not that I'm killing Nimmo. I'm just saying when he did go to the 3-hole, he struggled. It's unique for a guy to go in a batting order and tell him to do better or tell him to be the same player or not better in a lot of different spots in the order, right? Nimmo struggled in that 3-hole, right? A lot of people agree that he, Chris, Ken, you agree that Nimmo should have been there. I didn't agree with that, but, Nimmo was there, but the proof is in the pudding. He struggled. Hurt or not, he was in the lineup. There's no excuse if you're in the lineup and you're hurt, right? If you're hurt, don't play. And I say that for every player, right? If you're in the lineup, I assume you're healthy enough to perform. And when you don't perform, well, guess what? You're going to get criticized. And that's the uniqueness of certain players, right? Aaron Judge can bat anywhere in the lineup and be successful. Juan Soto is the same way, right? There's not many players that you can throw in the 2-hole, 3-hole, 4-hole. And it's hard for a player not to change their approach. Nimmo changed his approach when he went to the 3-hole, right? Because they put him in a run production part of the order. And he tried to do too much. And I love Nimmo for trying his best there, but he wasn't successful in that spot. And it's unique for guys to be in a 2-hole, 3-hole, 4-hole and still remain the same player, right? Because a lot of players have that mindset, oh my God, I'm in the cleanup spot. I'm in the 3-hole. Now I got to be that big run producer. And you might try harder. You might do things you wouldn't do at the plate. Juan Soto doesn't change. Aaron Judge doesn't change. Great players, no matter where you bat them, Aaron Judge has bat leadoff, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, right? And he's still great at what he does and doesn't change his approach. Juan Soto doesn't either. That's why it's unique. That's why it's great. That's why somebody is going to give him $700+ million because of these numbers you see. How many players can you pull up in baseball that can bat 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and even 5th because he has 70 games there? And look at the numbers. They're basically similar if you average it out to the amount of games. If he played 300 games at 5th, he would have similar numbers than he had there, or 2nd. That's why it's unique, and that's why you want to get a player. That's why somebody's willing to give him $700+ million, not just the Mets completely overpaying everybody else. There's going to be 2 teams, if not 3, that are over the $700 million mark, or 2 teams that are not going to get Juan Soto but are willing to do it. Why is that? Because I guarantee you they pulled up these numbers and saying, who wouldn't want a player like that? It's up to Juan Soto where he wants to go now. And any team is not going to cry about $750 million if that's the number that he signs on. Nobody's going to complain. They know what they're getting. The Yankees had him for 1 year. They know what he's done to their lineup. He knows what they know what he did to this organization. He got him to the World Series the first time since 2009. The first time Aaron Judge got to the World Series, and it took Juan Soto. Yankees know that. The Red Sox are trying to steal him in their division from the Yankees.
Yep.
I think that's more bigger news. I think Yankee fans should be more concerned that he could be a Red Sox than a Met. in my opinion, right? If he goes to the Mets, he's kind of out of your hair. You don't want him going to Toronto or Boston. Then you got to see him for the next 15 years beating you guys up at Yankee Stadium. You rather him go to the Mets. He's out of mind, out of sight at that point. He's non-existent until the Subway Series a few times a year. Like, that's the whole, I think, outcome or spectrum that we have to look at here. These numbers tell only a bit of the story, but it's obviously what we care about most, because this provides winning player. And you know what? Maybe in day 2 of Watch Party, if there is one, we'll put up his postseason numbers just to prove a better point, how good they are, because they are good. They're damn good. And that's the other reason why you give a guy $700+ million. It's not just what he does during the season. It's what he does to the organization, to the lineup as a whole. And when you get to the playoffs, what he does, because he will be one of the best players in the playoffs for your team. It's just a fact. He's done it throughout his career. And he did it with the 3 teams already. The Nationals, the Padres, and now the Yankees. So every stage you wanted him to be on, he's thrived. And one time he was 19 years old, winning the World Series, having numbers like he did. So, Chris, I appreciate you showing me this, and we have it on here because, well, what else are we going to really talk about at this point? We're hoping for a Juan Soto breaking news. We all, me and you and many people in the chat that are Met fans want it to be the Mets. But if it's not, we're going to be here. We're not going to, end the stream as soon as he's not signed with the Mets. We're not going to do that. We're going to obviously break it down and, have our opinions to why he didn't choose the New York Mets.
Yeah.
And if the Mets did have the highest offer and he chose less money to go to the Yankees or the Red Sox or elsewhere, we're going to talk about it, Chris.
Yeah, and if that happens again, like it very well could happen again. Yeah. The Yankees, instead of trying to convince me that the Yankees have a shot at signing Juan Soto because the lineup is better, you might as well just try to convince me that the Yankees' history and the pinstripes mean more, because I think that's a more valid argument, even given them not winning a World Series in the last 15 years, right? Or is it more than that now? No, it's 15 years, right?
15.
It's 15 years. That's a better argument than if you're trying to convince me that the lineup is light years better than what the Mets have right now. So again, right, it's still plausible. We're not trying to sell you that it's not possible that Juan Soto takes less money, quote unquote, to go back to the Yankees. If every report that we've heard, because again, we're going off of what we've heard, is true, then he is going to prioritize the money, in which I am going to tell you, Steve Cohen, quite simply, is going to offer more than Hal Steinbrenner. And if Hal Steinbrenner wants to go up to 700, if he even wants to think about going to 730, Steve Cohen will go to 750. I promise you that. So again, that's not the concern here. That if there are other factors involved, then we can have a little bit of a different conversation. But yeah, listen, the numbers are what they are. This is why you go out and get a guy like this, right? This is why I don't think twice about paying a guy of the caliber of Juan Soto all that money. It's right in front of you, right here on the screen. And so I would like to, maybe if we do a Juan Soto watch party tomorrow, again, my schedule's open. So if we're doing a Juan Soto watch party tomorrow, I'm in on it. We can have this same discussion. You let me know. But again, we can talk about this. And you talked about perhaps looking at, Juan Soto's postseason stats. We can do the same thing for Pete Alonso, because we've seen Pete Alonso bat in a numerous number of positions in the order in 2024 at the very minimum. And also, everyone wants to knock Pete Alonso on his 2024 performance, which is very well within your right, and I did so as well. I'm not going to shy away from that fact. But Pete Alonso also performed in the playoffs, right? He's performed in both playoff appearances in the past couple of years, in 2022 and in 2024, both. We also mentioned that on our Hot Stove Live yesterday. So, this is under the assumption and the hypothetical, but I think we should transition back into that graphic where we see the potential lineup, because again, when we're trying to decipher ordering the lineup 1 through 5, there's some differences in opinion 100%, right? You talk about Lindor, he's going to be your leadoff guy. He took off when he was in the leadoff spot. I was a big advocate for that too, by the way. Francisco Lindor, it made perfect sense for me to, see him in that leadoff spot. He thrived in that leadoff spot in Cleveland. And again, he just showed you why that move should have been probably made even sooner than what it was in the 2024 season. But I see a lot of people wanting Juan Soto in the 2 spot, right? And again, Mark Vientos in his short sample size, he thrived in the 2 spot for the New York Mets. For me, it's not a matter of where Mark Vientos bats. It's going to matter where Alonso and Soto bat in your lineup. For me, given what we just saw in the previous graphic with the versatility of Juan Soto batting very well, respectably, either 2, 3, or 4 in your lineup, the fact of the matter for me is that Juan Soto has to be behind Pete Alonso at all costs, especially given the season that Pete Alonso just had with runners in scoring position. If you want to sell me that Juan Soto should be in the top 3 because he is going to get the most at-bats as a top 3 hitter, sure, I'll buy into that. He can bat number 3. Then I will tell you that Pete Alonso should be in your 2nd spot, and then Mark Vientos should be in your cleanup spot. But for me, I'm going to stick to my original argument and say that Lindor, Vientos, Alonso, Soto seems pretty efficient to me. And if your lineup is good enough, as much as I think the Mets 1 through 5 would be good enough and on par with the Dodgers, the Braves, the Phillies, and any other top 5 in this league with these 5 guys at the top, at that point, are you really, I guess you could still think about however you're going to maximize the at-bats for the top 3 guys, but at that point, I don't think it should matter.
Yeah.
Who's in your top 3 versus who's in your cleanup spot. Because if those guys in the top 3 are doing their job, just like we think Lindor, Vientos, and Alonso can do, and again, you think that Alonso can do the job because in this scenario, they'd give him the re-sign, they'd give him the extension, then why not bat Juan Soto 4? I don't understand it. And also, to just round out my argument, a lot of people that I've seen that are saying Juan Soto is not a 5-tool player. He can't even be considered a 5-tool player because he walks too much. He gets on base too much via the walk. His on-base percentage is over 400 consistently, but approaching 450. I'm always going to take the guy that's going to get on base 100%. I understand paying a guy a lot of money to try to do something more for you than just walking, right? Swing the bat and see what happens over taking the walk in certain situations. I understand that side of things as well. So if that is the argument and that's the side of the fence that you're going to be on, Juan Soto should prioritize swinging the bat more, then if you're in that category, you should not want Juan Soto batting 2 at all, 100% in my opinion. Because those 2 guys, Lindor and whoever the 2 guy is getting on base, presumably in the perfect world scenario, is going to create a situation where you cannot pitch around Juan Soto. That's how I see it.
Well, I mean, it will give more opportunities for Pete Alonso to get the job done, right? And right, if you hear in Met fans, they believe that he's still that guy. And even though we might not believe that, I think he's more of a RBI patter in his career than a lot of Met fans want to lead on. But it gives the opportunity for Pete Alonso to have a lot of men on base if Juan Soto's in front of him, because he will take the walk. And what did we complain about with Pete Alonso a lot throughout his career, specifically last year, right? He wasn't willing to take that walk. Maybe seeing Juan Soto on a daily basis might make Pete Alonso stay off that slider. And, we would love that 3-run home run. But, and I'm not talking about in the playoffs, but I'm talking about in general during the season. You could take that walk. It's not the end of the world taking that walk and trying to do too much. Juan Soto will not try to do too much. He will take that walk. He will not chase outside that strike zone. He's willing to take that walk. You know why? Because Juan Soto, even though he's the same player and doesn't change for any spot in the position, he will trust that the next guy will get it done. Why do you think he's so interested about the lineup and the roster? Because he cares that if he gets on, he wants to have faith in the next guy. And I truly believe that he would have faith in any team he joins that, you know what, I'm not going to chase out of the zone because I trust the guy behind me, right? And, you know, you can easily go where, why wouldn't the Yankees put Juan Soto behind Aaron Judge, right? Wouldn't that give protection to Aaron Judge? Not that Judge needs protection for the numbers during the season, but maybe it would have made a difference in the playoffs, right? Maybe pitchers being afraid of Juan Soto coming up next, who was clearly the better postseason player, maybe that would have gave Aaron Judge more times to get better pitches at the plate instead of chasing so many times like Aaron Judge did. You can have that argument with Pete Alonso, right?
My argument right there. That's in a nutshell. That's my argument.
Exactly. I'm trying to be the devil's advocate on both ends here. You know, like if you put Juan Soto behind Pete Alonso, you might get better pitches for Pete Alonso, and he might not have to worry about that slider in the outside corner or out of the zone that he's swinging at, because maybe he's more comfortable taking that walk because Juan Soto's behind him. Now, you can look at it so many different ways. And again, I don't think anybody would be necessarily, you know, pounding the table mad if Juan Soto's batting second, third, or fourth. I don't think many people will, you know, be upset about it, but he's going to clearly bat somewhere other than leadoff and probably in the 2, 3, 4 hole. It's just a matter of where it's going to be. And, you know, if you're looking at the numbers, the number 3 spot makes the most sense, right? Just by numbers alone. But the number 2 hole is second best. Number 4th is third best. So, you know, I think Juan Soto likes to bat second. And if you're Mendoza, just signing Juan Soto, I do. And if Alonso is here, because it could be a whole different ballgame if Alonso is not on the Mets, right? I think that's a whole different ballgame. You know, if it's Anthony Santander other than Pete Alonso, you know, that can be a different argument of where you're going to put Juan Soto. But if it is Alonso and Soto, you can go a lot of different ways. And I think that Mendoza for the first year, or at least because Mendoza's not afraid to change the lineup. We saw it last year, right? You know, a lot of people thought that Lindor going to the leadoff spot was kind of an insult. Remember when they talked about like they had to change up the lineup because they weren't playing well? People thought it was an insult for Lindor. It changed Lindor's season. It changed the Mets season by doing that. So Mendoza's not shy if it's not working all around to change things up. And it doesn't matter if you are the star of the team, if you're making the most money, he's willing to change it around for the betterment of the team. So I'm not worried that Mendoza, if it's not working and it's not benefiting everybody, he will change the lineup around. So I'm not worried about that. If Soto's batting 3 and Alonso's 4 and it's not working, he can flip them tomorrow. I'm not worried about Mendoza doing that because he has the stones to do that, unlike Aaron Boone. So I think the lineup, whatever it might be on opening day, could be different in game 5. Could be different in game 50, right? I don't think it, you know, I can be so worried about that, right? I think Aaron Boone was so trying to favor Juan Soto and not get him, quote unquote, angry that he put him exactly where he wanted Juan Soto to go. Where Juan Soto says, that's where he went. I think the Yankees kind of kissed the ass of Juan Soto just to make him happy, where I think it might have benefited them more in the playoffs to flip Juan Soto and Aaron Judge and have Juan Soto behind him. It might have helped them, or at least Aaron Judge, to be the player that you've seen during the season. And maybe Juan Soto could do that to Pete Alonso during the season with less strikeouts. The ability to take more walks because Pete Alonso don't feel like he has to do everything with runners on. He's got one of the best players in baseball behind him, Chris.
And that's why we're having this discussion in the first place. Because again, you made a great point. Opening day, if Pete Alonso's on this team with Juan Soto, that's a great success, and I love it because Juan Soto obviously means he signed, and which is why we're on this live stream in general talking about Juan Soto, and that means that Pete Alonso was re-signed, given some uncertainties there. That would be a great situation to be in. I wouldn't doubt that the opening day lineup would have Juan Soto in front of Pete Alonso because, again, you have to have a confidence factor in Pete Alonso if you are able to pony up enough money to what he wants right now. Because, again, that's the primary gripe amongst Mets fans right now is that are the Mets going to give Alonso the money that he wants, whatever that is, whether it's 160, 170, 180, even 200, right? So in a situation where both of these guys are in your lineup, and if Pete Alonso gets re-signed, obviously you have the confidence in him and you're going to treat 2024 as quote unquote, maybe perhaps a fluke, even though I hate using that word, right? Because trends do matter at the end of the day. But again, you get into a situation where Pete Alonso perhaps is struggling in the 4 spot, right? Or in the 3 spot, depending on where you hit these guys at, because again, Vientos is interchangeable in my opinion in the 3 spot and the 4 spot as well. I would think if you bat Juan Soto second, Vientos would be in your 3 spot and Pete Alonso would just be in your 4 spot, which would remain the case that Pete Alonso, presumably, if the guys ahead of him are doing their job, Pete Alonso is going to come up with runners in scoring position. And we know what Pete Alonso's problems were in 2024. You just said it, Rob. The down and out slider, the chasing, right? Mm-hmm. Looking foolish on those sliders down and out. We know the numbers. It's not just the eye test. It's the numbers test of going on Baseball Reference, looking at the splits, looking at what he's hitting and how successful he is with runners in scoring position in certain situations with runners on first base, second base, first and second base, etc. It was not pretty. It wasn't pretty. So for me, knowing that, and maybe that was Pete Alonso just pressing, right? You would hope. But as we always say, Rob, hope is just a strategy. Hope is just a strategy. So what is the definition of insanity? Repeating the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. The most efficient process for me, given that Soto, what we just saw on the previous screen, is versatile enough to hit successfully in multiple positions in the batting order, while also realizing that Pete Alonso could be a versatile player, but to protect yourself against a 2.0 situation of what happened with runners in scoring position in 2024, the most efficient thing for me is for Carlos Mendoza to put Juan Soto behind Pete Alonso. And Pete Alonso is not exempt from batting in the 2-hole. I will just say that right now. He's not exempt from that because he actually has had a decent amount of success. If we were to pull up the same graphic of Pete Alonso in the 2-hole compared to the 3-hole, the 4-hole, etc., you would find that he has had some success, a good amount of success in the 2-hole. So he's not exempt from that. Now, I will also say, even though that I would be potentially in favor of that, I know that it's not likely to happen. I know that it's not likely to happen, just as I know that it's not likely to happen come opening day that Juan Soto is not batting 2 for the New York Mets. But I will say, if things remain consistent to last season, in order to get Pete Alonso back on track, Juan Soto is the easy fix, just as it could have been for the Yankees to flip those guys in the lineup. That is my argument. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yep. Exactly. And look, we don't know how it would have turned out if the Yankees, the Yankees did, sorry, choking over all this, fun stuff going on here.
Take your time over there, Rob.
Christ. I'm trying to get something out here and I can't do it. Who knows how the outcome would have been in the World Series if Juan Soto batted behind Aaron Judge, right? If Judge bats 300 in the postseason and strikes out 10 less times, maybe the Yankees do make it a series and maybe do win the World Series, right? It could be that little of a difference because look what happened with the Mets when they changed Lindor to the leadoff spot. It completely changed their season. And I'm not saying that would have been the outcome for the Yankees, but little changes in the lineup that makes other players better makes you better, makes the team better. That's a fact. The Mets are a proven track record of that last year. right? They were one of the worst offenses in baseball the first 2 months of the season. Mendoza made that change. It made Lindor an MVP candidate. It made Vientos become the player he did, right? And this is with Nimmo, with Alonso, with Alvarez having down seasons, with McNeil having a bad season. It took Jose Iglesias to come in here to help change things, right? It had, Marte, who was out most of the majority being hurt, right? Bader had a good season early on and then struggled. And then it became the Tyrone Taylor story, right? So there's so many different ways to look at it. Like, we don't talk about it enough. I mean, we do, but Met fans don't talk about it enough that the Mets went to the NLCS Game 6 with down seasons from Alonso, Nimmo, Alvarez, and McNeil.
Spectacular.
And who was starting in the last playoff game for the Mets? It was, not Jose Iglesias, but Jose Iglesias was starting most of the games in the postseason, and Tyrone Taylor. Two guys that were, Jose Iglesias was in the minors. Tyrone Taylor was a fourth outfielder. Like, that's what the Mets were doing here. That's what they had. Just imagine if Alonso just has a little bit better of a season. If Alvarez would hit his, we all think 20 home runs, where he was 11 home runs short of that. If Nimmo was a little bit healthier and did what he can do that we know he can do, that's down seasons. And if you add Juan Soto and bring back Pete Alonso and these guys have a little bit better of a year, you would just assume that the Mets would be better than what they were last year. It's right, even with whatever rotation you want to put out there. That's how easy a little bit of a change in numbers for certain players. And we all think Alonso can have a better year. Obviously, Nimmo can have a better year. Alvarez, I mean, it's hard to have a worse year than Alvarez did offensively.
Yeah.
Right. So even if they have a little bit better of a year with Juan Soto, wouldn't that be north of what the Mets games won this year? 90 plus wins easily?
Yeah.
You would just think so.
Listen, I think the dark horse in this lineup, if what you have on the screen remains consistent, the dark horse is Brandon Nimmo. I know a lot of Mets fans even are writing him off. And for me, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Do I think that, he is going to be back and batting 2 in the lineup? No, I think that the number 5 spot is perfectly okay for him. And I think that he can have a resurgence there. But I see a lot of Mets fans writing Nimmo off, and I'm kind of scratching my head in terms of why. But again, I think the consensus in the bottom line is that this top 5 is good enough to be interchangeable, and there's a lot of different avenues to go to. Situationally, though, with this personnel, I'm finding a hard time valuing Juan Soto at the 2 spot. I'm finding a hard time finding value of that. Because I understand Lindor gets on, Juan Soto gets on 100%. If Pete Alonso is batting right behind that, right? And I know a lot of people might say, okay, Mark Vientos is batting in the 3 spot, which would probably be preferable for me in that set, right? If Juan Soto bats second, you'll have Mark Vientos behind him. I'm not going to say that I'm worried about Pete Alonso going down the gutter in terms of the runners in scoring position metrics, but it has to be in the back of your mind at the very minimum, right? It has to be in the back of your mind. So again, my argument is always going to be the most efficient thing for Pete Alonso to get him going, knowing how versatile Soto is just put Soto behind him. Because Soto will succeed no matter what, and Pete Alonso will get more pitches to hit. And if he doesn't, you just hope that he's able to just lay off those abysmal pitches that he was swinging at in 2024 for strikeouts.
Yep.
That's really the basis of my argument. Again, that I think I'm repeating myself. I think we're repeating ourselves, but like that's really the basis of the argument. Again, a lot of different avenues.
Yeah, and it's a great argument to have because look, Juan Soto makes a difference. And that's why Pete Alonso is the center of attention. People in the comments, they're talking about Vladimir Guerrero. I'm not going to talk about Vladimir Guerrero until if until Pete Alonso signs elsewhere, I'm not having a Vladimir Guerrero discussion because it's irrelevant. Because if Pete Alonso signs with the Mets, Vlad Guerrero is out the question. So the Vlad Guerrero conversation shouldn't. I mean, obviously, it can be talked about because there's an argument to be had that the Mets might not sign Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, because they might be looking at Vlad Guerrero next year, right? They might have a stopgap first baseman for 1 year. They might do that. That might be a plan. But Vlad Guerrero is not a conversation to be had yet. Until Pete Alonso signs either with the Mets or elsewhere, that's when we can talk about Guerrero as a possibility. That's if Pete Alonso doesn't sign. But to me, it's irrelevant to talk about Vlad Guerrero when Vlad Guerrero, at this moment, you have to trade for him. And right now, the Mets don't have a first baseman. And Pete Alonso's still out there. So if the Mets sign Pete Alonso, Vlad Guerrero conversation is over. But if Pete Alonso goes elsewhere, maybe that trade opportunity is possible. If the Blue Jays don't get Juan Soto, I think it's more likely they trade Vladimir Guerrero. If not this offseason at the trade deadline, because why keep him? You lost out on Juan Soto. I don't think he's staying with Toronto. I don't think he's extended with Toronto. So I think the conversation to be had, Chris, with Vlad Guerrero is irrelevant until we know what happens with Juan Soto. I know it's an argument and a conversation where some Met fans might want Vlad Guerrero over Pete Alonso, but you can't. Vlad Guerrero was not a free agent. If he was a free agent with Pete Alonso, then there's conversations to be had and arguments to be had that some people might want Vlad over Pete Alonso, and maybe most Met fans do, but you can't have that conversation because it's irrelevant at this point when Pete Alonso is still out there and the Mets can still bring back Pete Alonso. And since that became a topic in the chat, Chris, that's why I started talking about it.
Yeah, sorry. I keep having to take care of some stuff over here on the side. What was I saw Vladdy Jr. in the chat. I'm trying to track that.
I'm just saying, the reason why I brought up Vlad Guerrero was because, Pete Alonso has been a topic, obviously, in the lineup. Yeah. And Met fans are talking about in the chat about Vlad Guerrero. I think it's an irrelevant conversation at the moment because Vlad Guerrero was not a free agent. And at this moment, you have to trade for him. And Pete Alonso is still out there. And the point I was making is until Pete Alonso signs either with the Mets or let's say he signs elsewhere, then you can have that conversation about Vlad Guerrero Jr. as a trade candidate, or the Mets are going to have a stopgap at first base for 1 year to go after Vlad Guerrero in 2026 or after this season. Because if the Mets do sign Juan Soto, Vlad Guerrero and Juan Soto are best friends. That could be a conversation to be had as well. But at the moment, Vlad Guerrero is irrelevant for the New York Mets until Pete Alonso either signs and the Vlad Guerrero conversation is over if he signs with the Mets. And the topic might come up even more if Pete Alonso goes elsewhere. Because I don't see the Mets sign Christian Walker for 3 years when they have Clifford as one of their top prospects who could be a first baseman, or Vlad Guerrero being a free agent next year, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to happen.
But I also could see a situation where Christian Walker could be an option because you have the ability to move him over to a DH spot, right? And then you go get Vladdy, right? And then you'd have Vientos, who doesn't have to move over to first base at all, right? And then you have Christian Walker as your DH, and then you'd have Vladimir Guerrero Jr., right? In the off chance. Again, this is all hypotheticals, right? It's a big chance to take, but again, it's so hard to factor in prospects, and you are the biggest proponent of this all in terms of not knowing what, these prospects are going to sort of, deliver for you at the major league level. And so therefore just prioritize the already proven major league talent. So if there was a situation where Pete Alonso walks, right, and there needs to be a stopgap, you could opt for a guy like Carlos Santana for a stopgap, 1 year first baseman. The guy's 37, 38 years old. I know Mets fans are going to throw a fit, an absolute fit, if they see one of their homegrown talents and Pete Alonso walk for a multi-year deal with another team, and then the Mets sign a stopgap 30-something-year-old first baseman and Carlos Santana to a 1-year deal. So again, it sounds cool in theory to wait for Vladimir Guerrero, but everyone's going to be concerned with the now, and they're going to see a guy like Carlos Santana and be like, are you kidding me? So Christian Walker, I really would feel like no matter what, would be a fit in that sense. And we haven't heard anything from the Mets in terms of being in on the Juan Soto or the Christian Walker front. But I also actually kind of heard some things about Pete Alonso and potentially him coming back to the Mets with a final offer wherever he gets it from another team and whatever. Again, just speculation, because we don't really have solidified markets for any of these guys while we're doing these Juan Soto live streams, right? But again, it's so hard to even say that Vladimir Guerrero should be in the discussion right now, because I don't think that he's going anywhere. I really don't think that he's going anywhere. You could see a situation where he goes at the deadline, and maybe the Mets or the Blue Jays don't want to repeat a 2.0 situation if Pete Alonso doesn't sign back with the Mets, and the Blue Jays open up their eyes and are like, well, we should just at least get value wherever we can. You know what I mean? And not have that happen to us. But I hear the hype surrounding Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I'm not denying that I don't want him on this team, but you cannot factor him into the equation right now.
Right.
The Mets are not trading for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in this offseason. If they do, I will go on record on this live stream. If the Mets somehow, in the 0.0000001% chance of probability that they trade for Vladimir Guerrero, I will pick one lucky viewer for a Vlad Guerrero jersey of the New York Mets, completely free of charge. I'll send it right to you, and we'll work that out. It's not happening, folks. It's not happening. So again, if that's the discussion, just please throw it away and clip it if you want to, right? This could be like a cold takes exposed sort of situation. But yeah, man, again, Vlad Guerrero should not be in this discussion right now.
All right, so we got a Heyman article here in regards to Juan Soto, and this is a New York Post report. Heyman, obviously, Yankees Mets up Juan Soto bids north of $700 million as his historic free agent years. With both clubs recently up in offers into 710 to 730 range, the Yankees are at 710, the Mets are at 730.
Woo.
Now, okay, so again, this is
that the
where
Post? Is that the Post?
Yep. So I'm reading that right now. So again, we kind of brought this up that we believe the Mets and the Yankees are the two favorites. The Red Sox are maybe that guy, that Red Sox sports guy that, he has about 16,000 followers on X. He did say that he believes the Red Sox are out, and it's between the Mets and the Yankees. At this point, he's right. You haven't heard anything about the Red Sox being back involved anymore. Maybe they're out after going to the 700 million, but if this is true and John Heyman's correct, it's a $20 million difference. That's not chump change. That's, a little over $1 million per year AAV more in total contract. You would think it's around the 15-year mark in contract. And, if you do a quick math here, and I'm going to do it right now, 730 for 15 years is 48.6. And if you do the Yankees number, it's about $1.5 million less, a little less than that. So, what does Juan Soto want, right? If he chooses the Yankees, he took less money, right? The Mets are going to have the highest offer. I still believe there's a chance that Steve Cohen is going to go to like 760. And, if those reports earlier in the offseason that he's going to go $50 million more than everybody else, well, he's $30 million away here. And if he does that, Juan Soto is going to be a New York Met. So are Yankee fans comfortable right now that they're $20 million less than the New York Mets? The Yankees are at 710. The Yankees are at 710. The Mets are at 730. So if those are accurate and Heyman's correct, again, This is the first kind of report where we're hearing actual numbers here, right? We don't know. He didn't really discuss the years, if I'm not mistaken. I might have missed it, but I tried to just get the numbers really quick. I mean, you would think it's going to be between a 14, 15-year deal. And what Heyman also, what people are talking about, there might be opt-outs. There might be, deferrals. There might be, it might be front-loaded then back-loaded, right? I truly believe the Yankees are probably going to want to back-load this contract. Just to save some money this season so they could do more. I think the Mets would honestly front-load this contract. And not worry about the back end and lower it on the back end. I think they could go $60 million over the first 2 or 3 seasons, and then it gradually goes down to 55, 48, and stuff like that. I think the Mets could do that. So, again, it's what Juan Soto wants. And if Juan Soto wants the most money, and there's no indication anywhere that he's willing to take less money. And, could we just bring up the Yankees for a second because of the fact that why wouldn't they go to $20 million more? What is stopping? See, this is where I think Yankee fans should have a problem with the Yankees right now and Hal Steinbrenner. What is $20 million when you're over $700 million at this point, right? They are still leaning on the pinstripes being a reason for him to take less money. That's a way to go.
You know what that smells like to me, Rob? That smells like the media trying to get every last penny out of Steve Cohen.
Correct.
That's what it smells like to me. Because again, we heard that earlier report, whether it's true or not, that the Mets would go $50 million beyond whatever the final offer was. I have my doubts and reservations that the Yankees go up to 710. And if we're hearing reports of that right now, it just smells like a scare tactic for the Mets to just get every last little bit of money out of Steve Cohen's wallet.
I agree.
That's what I think.
I think this is how.
And you know what? Sorry to cut you off. I think this could be endgame. I think that this could be endgame, Rob. This could be the very last squeeze out of the New York Mets, to where maybe the Mets could have landed Juan Soto for 710. They could have landed him for 705 or even 701. But this is the very last squeeze out of the media. So this could be endgame right here.
I think Cohen's going to go to 750 and says, you know what? I'll play your, few chips on the table, and I'll just put my whole Monty on there right now. That's like one of those movies where, the guy's like, that's it, I'm going all in. Like, I think Steve Cohen is not going to be denied here, right? Hal Steinbrenner, I truly believe Hal Steinbrenner deep down wants to sign Juan Soto, but for his price. I think he is shaking in his boots right now with this number because he sees Giancarlo Stanton, he sees Aaron Judge worth around $65 million. He's going to have 3 players over $100 million. The Mets only have 2. That's going to cost a lot of money. And it might be 3 with Alonso, but Steve Cohen is not going to bark on this number. He's just not, right? He clearly knows he's going to be the highest offer. It's just a matter
without a doubt. That's not even a question. Yes, he is 100%.
This is where the Juan Soto decision is going to come in. The Yankees are not going to have the highest offer. That is probably factual at this point. I think a lot of us, if not all of us, are going to agree that the Mets are going to have the biggest offer. The Yankees will not have the biggest offer. Is the Yankee pinstripes worth more to Juan Soto than another $20, $30, $40 million? Right now it's at 20, right? I think it's going to be more. I think Cohen is not going to make no doubt. Say if it is only $20 million, these are the final offers for both teams. Is the pinstripes worth more to Juan Soto to take $20 less million? I find that very hard to believe.
Did you see that graphic of Juan Soto at that dinner table earlier today? Who was he with? Who was he with?
Some people were thinking it was like Cora, but everybody took a close-up of it, and it wasn't Cora. For all we know, this could be Boris and Juan Soto's best friend, and maybe his, I don't know, his entourage, his security. I don't know. Like, who Who
He was
knows?
looking stressed, though. He was looking stressed. I mean, it's just a snapshot in time at the end of the day, but like, yeah, that graphic was kind of funny to me.
That's interesting.
Yeah, man. Listen, I don't know. Again, this is the whole notion of the Yankees grasping onto straws in hopes that there is some sort of factor surrounding the Yankees organization and there's some aura surrounding that organization that could draw Juan Soto back in. You know, maybe perhaps a last ditch effort for Aaron Judge to throw a pitch his way. But again, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not trying to sell, Mets or Yankees fans that Francisco Lindor is the face of New York baseball. I think that we can all, pretty much objectively state that Aaron Judge has that spotlight at least on him. But if you're going to try to tell me that Juan Soto, right, is not enamored with at least thinking of the idea of playing alongside Francisco Lindor, I mean, come on, let's be real here. That's got to be a driving factor as well, which is why Francisco Lindor has been in on this sort of pursuit and pitch to Juan Soto as well. So again, at the end of the day, I really do think that the Mets, and this is something to be said too, of like, if the Mets are the highest bidders, right? And if they don't end up with Juan Soto, if for some reason the Yankees do have that aura surrounding them of the Yankees pinstripes and Juan Soto wanting that kind of legacy there, okay, what can the Mets do from there on out? Because we all know Steve Cohen's going to get laughed at by the media, right? Saying money isn't, the end all be all. The Mets have to fix their laughing stock ways, stuff like that, right? Which is like, okay, fine, valid. The Mets have to win more in order to attract superstars. Okay. But like, can we be mad at Steve Cohen for just putting his just like money out there and saying, boom, here it is on the table. You take it or you don't, right? And at that point, screw it. The guy didn't want to be a Met.
Agree.
You know what I mean? There's nothing else to say at that point.
And I won't be mad at Juan Soto. Like, this is not a situation where I'm going to, say, oh, F Juan Soto and, screw him. I'm not, right? I always say if a player wants to be somewhere, go for it, even if it's for more money or not, right? Aaron Judge was a unique situation, guys. Aaron Judge was a unique situation, right? He took less money to go back to the team that he grew within the organization with, right? We hoped Pete Alonso takes a little bit less money to remain with the Mets where he grew up in the organization, right? The Juan Soto situation, where's the loyalty for Juan Soto? There is none. He left the Nationals when they offered him a big-time contract. He didn't want to extend with the Padres. He clearly didn't extend with the Yankees. And I truly believe he became a free agent to take the most money. Now, we could be wrong here. I could be wrong. And if he goes to the Yankees, because, again, the Yankees are going to have the second best offer. The Mets are going to have the highest offer. That's already been determined. Why the Yankees won't go to $20 million more, that's a question for Yankee fans to ask their owner. I don't care. But remember this, Yankee fans. If he does choose the Mets and it's only these two numbers that are the final numbers, and he chooses $20 million more overall average for the contract, that's what he thought about the New York Yankees. That the Yankees aren't worth going back $20 million less. That's what he thinks of you. So just remember that. Now, if he goes back to the Yankees, he clearly feels some type of way playing 1 year with the Yankees, and that's fine. They have a storied history. We all understand that, and that should be respected. I respect their history. Yeah. And if a player believes after one season that he loves that, and, the aura, the pinstripes, the bleacher creatures, if he loves all that, then by all means, Juan Soto, go to the Yankees. He ain't going to affect the Mets. He's going to be in the American League. I don't care. I'd rather him be with the Yankees than be with the Dodgers, be with any other National League team, because that means I'm going to face him more. Right? He ain't going to be with the Phillies or the Braves or the Nationals or anybody else or the Marlins. So I don't care. I think I'm being so truthful here. If he's a Yankee, he doesn't affect me. He doesn't affect my team at all. All he does is affects me at this moment because now the Mets have to pivot in this offseason. And you're going to, we all would want Juan Soto. But again, it's a pivot for the offseason, but it doesn't affect me during the season except for 6 games during the year. That's it.
And that's the advantage here too, is that it's basically all AL teams, specifically AL East teams, in on Juan Soto outside of the Mets. Let's throw up. I do have a question for you, but let's throw up Jonathan's super chat here, right here on the live. Jonathan saying the Yankees want to milk Cohen out of his money. Rob is right. They think the pinstripes have an intrinsic. That's a big word, man. I'm happy. I even.
We're YouTubers, man. We ain't that smart.
Yeah. No. Shout out to Jonathan though. The Yankees, the pinstripes have an intrinsic value associated with it. I think Cohen goes all in. Soto would have to turn down the most money. Yes. And this is a great super chat, and I appreciate that from Jonathan. I always appreciate Jonathan's support, as with everybody else here in both of our live chats. And the fact that, do you think that $1 million, or I think it'd be about $1.5 million, somewhere around there per, considering he's up for a 14 or 15-year contract, and if the Mets are, right, if this report is true, saying that they are $20 million above, do you think that's enough? Do you think that's enough, Rob? Is that enough?
Here's the thing. The AAV is not going to be Ohtani, $70 million a year, right? So that's out of the question. He's not going to have the highest AAV in history. But this overall contract is both over the Ohtani number. And that's the most in history. So I don't think the Yankee pinstripes are enough to take $20 million less. Because wouldn't he sign already? Wouldn't he have signed right now or a few days or a few hours ago? Because this number was clearly here probably earlier in the day, because there was a couple of reports that the Soto met with the Mets and Yankees today. So these numbers are very recent. If the Yankees went to 710 and Boris went back to Cohen and Cohen was like, all right, I'll give you 730. What stopped Cohen every single time? Because you know what this tells you? That Boris went back to Cohen with that number from the Yankees and went higher. So what stops Cohen if the Yankees do go back to 730 and the Mets go back to Cohen and says, all right, I'll give you 750? That means at some point he's going to be $20 million at least over. So if Boris keeps on going back to the Mets, what does that tell you? That Juan Soto is not going back to the Yankees for $20 million less. Because he would sign at some point, no? With the Yankees already. I mean, it should be a done deal by now if he's going to take $20 million less. Why is he waiting? He's waiting because $20 million is not enough for him to stay with the Yankees. It's not. Now, if it was a $5 million difference, maybe we can talk about it, because I don't think that's much at all. But $1 million, I don't even think it's about the AAV anymore. I think $20 million more is a lot of money to turn down just to go back to the Yankees. I mean, Chris, I don't know if you agree. Wouldn't he have signed at 710 and not go back to the Mets? Why did he go back to the Mets? Because I don't think the Yankees upped their offer after they saw the Cohen offer. Because isn't that kind of like a negative situation if Juan Soto and Boris went to the Yankees and showed, look, Cohen gave 730, and the Yankees like, all right, we'll go 710. Wouldn't Boris and Soto walk out the room and be like, are you serious? You didn't match.
So this is kind of where it gets back to the report that we talked about way earlier on in this stream, right? We're going on 2 hours and 12 minutes onto the stream. That original report that I kind of was in question from Mike Rodriguez that he posted about 6 or 7 hours ago ended up being factual, right? Because John Heyman just confirmed it, right? So I already wrote my apology tweet out to Mike Rodriguez in one of his reports, right? In his tweets. This is my formal apology, Mike Rodriguez. I'm sorry. Your sources were in the room indeed 100%, right? Yeah. He reported that the Mets were up to $730 million. Now, right. I don't think the years were confirmed, right? So he said, I still think he said, I don't know, he said 13 or 14, 15, whatever it was for 730. He got 730 right. But the timeline matters because, right? If, again, as you just, and I'm going to back you up in saying that if the Mets were the original ones to offer 730, Who's to say that the Boris and Soto didn't already go back to the Yankees, right? Secondary, and say the Mets just offered 730. What's your final offer?
Yep.
Oh, it's 710. Maybe that's why Juan Soto was so conflicted at that table right there. Maybe that's why he's thinking about this too much. You know what I mean? Like, and it's a very hard decision for him to make.
I agree. And I do think he probably leans Yankees a little bit only because it's common sense. He played for the Yankees last year, so he understands the organization a little bit and got the feel of, Yankee Stadium and being a Yankee. But again, the struggle might be, do you take less? And again, this was a huge problem with Aaron Judge. If you go back to Aaron Judge a couple of years ago, the union and a lot of the players was not happy with Aaron Judge because he would have got a lot more money from the Padres or the Giants and took less money to go back to the Yankees. Now, that ended up being good for the Yankees, but the union was not happy with Aaron Judge. Stop Boris, and you would think Juan Soto, they're on this union path here. They're union guys. Do they disrespect the union and the players? Because that's what he's doing here. And again, it's not saying that Anthony Santander is not going to get a hell of a lot more money because it's a $20 million difference. But that $20 million difference, guys, that goes in the realm of next year's qualifying offer, right? Because don't they take the average of all the contracts and they divide it into the players, how many players were free agents, and then that's the qualifying offer for next year, right? So that $20 million could make the qualifying offer $2 million less than it might be next year for those players. And it might not sound like a lot, but for players like Frankie Montas, would love $24 million qualifying offer next year, if that was possible, or a player like of that ilk, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, that means something to the union and to the players.
This is one thing that I wanted to ask you as I got sidetracked by the recent report of 710 versus 730. With the opt-outs, do you think that the opt-outs of the contract make the Mets higher bid, no matter what it is, more attractive in the short term, knowing that he still has an opt-out when he gets into the prime of his career? Everyone forgets he's 26 years old. He still's got 3 or 4 years until he gets into the prime of his career. Now, again, that's a huge risk if you're Juan Soto, which is why I firmly believe that if you are getting $48, $49, $50 million a year, if you're Juan Soto, why would you want any opt-outs at that point?
Well, you know
why
what
would you?
I think the only reason why is that you never know. There might be a desperate team out there that might say, you know what, we're going to give you $60 million a year. And if still, maybe not, but you just never know. Like, I don't think there's any opt-out for the Mets or the Yankees that's going to be less than 3 years. I think the first opt-out is going to be after the third year when he's 29.
Yes, correct. 100%.
Look, the Yankees and Mets know their offer. I'd be shocked if the opt-outs are different from each team. I think they're exactly the same. Because what benefit does a team have in having different opt-outs at different times? Like, what's the difference after the third year? You're getting to the 30-year-old mark now, the 30-year and older mark. Who's going to give him an opt-out after the 5th year? And somebody going to get it the 4th year, right? I think it's going to be similar. I think both teams are going to have similar opt-out years. And that's where the number is probably going to come in here, in my opinion. And that's why, again, would I be mad if Juan Soto goes to the Yankees for $20 million less and Cohen didn't go? Like, I don't see why Cohen wouldn't go $50 million more. Why would he? At this point, it's monopoly money now. Like, if he's willing to go $20 million more, you would think he would go $40 million more if he needed to. If Juan Soto goes back to Cohen and says, listen, I think I'm going to go to the Yankees for $20 million less, and Cohen goes, all right, what about $750? You really think he's going to pass up $40 million? Like, the Mets aren't the Pirates, guys. The Mets aren't, the Detroit Tigers. The Mets are not, the lower tier teams here. They are still New York, if everybody forgot that.
Yeah.
right? It's not like he has to move. So we'll see. But I find it hard to believe that if it's stretching out this long and it still hasn't been a decision, tells me that he's not going to sign for less money because he would have signed already. He would not go back to Cohen. This is a perfect scenario where, and this happened with Correa, this happened with Springer, this happened with Gausman, right? Those players, they didn't go back to the Mets, or at least in the Gausman Springer case, they didn't go back to the Mets to get a better offer. They got the offer that matched the Mets, and they went to another team. This seems like it's setting up where Boris goes to the Yankees saying, all right, what's your offer? And Boris said it the other day in the interview. He's going back to Steve Cohen for the final call. He said that in an interview when he had all the mics in his face about 3-4 days ago.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. So what does that tell you? That tells you that Boris and Juan Soto are on the same page.
Well, you know why that is, though, right? This is something that we haven't even mentioned about this whole situation. And it applies to every one of free agents in general, but obviously Scott Boras' clients, is that Scott Boras makes a commission off of these contracts, by the way. Has anyone forgot about that? Agents make commission off of these contracts. And it's up to like 5%. I believe that's the max value of the contract that an agent can make. So you know what I mean? Like, that's also kind of a factor that nobody has really mentioned. I understand that it's probably not in the upper echelon of like important factors, but if you're making a differential of like 20 or $30 million between these two teams, I mean, that could also just be right there, right in your face, the commission value of just making the deal alone.
Yeah. We also forget that Juan Soto has been a client of Boras since he was basically a kid, right? When he was signed internationally at like 16, 17 years old, he's been groomed by Scott Boras every step of the way. His comments throughout the year and after the World Series sound like Scott Boras. So he's in tune with Scott Boras. And I don't think Juan Soto, I think Scott Boras is more of the decision maker of this situation than Juan Soto. I think Juan Soto gave his opinion saying, hey, listen, it's New York. I'm obviously I'm not in the room, but Juan Soto said it's still New York. Get me the biggest money from either team in New York. I think that could be the case. Maybe he said to Scott Boras, I want to be in New York. Now, I think the Boston Red Sox being involved scared the hell out of the Yankees more than the Mets do. Because if the Red Sox had the 7-30, say if the Red Sox and Yankees were the finalists, and they had $20 million more than the Yankees, I think the Yankees would try to match. Because I think they're deadly afraid of Boston getting Soto than the Mets. I think the Yankees aren't going to cry if he goes to the Mets. Because why would you? It's a different league. I think that's true where the Yankees, and I have no problem with the Yankees doing this, Chris. I think the Yankees are saying, if you want to go to the Mets for more money, go ahead. It's not in our division. It's not in our league, which I would agree with. And I think Yankee fans should understand that. Like, if you lose to the Mets, he's not going to hurt you except for 6 games of the season, possibly the World Series. That's the only time he can hurt you.
Right.
Other than that, with Boston, you played him 13 times. You might face him in the ALDS, wildcard ALCS. He can hurt you more than what he does with the Mets.
So do you think that that's a more motivating factor? Actually, that wouldn't be a more motivating factor, because if the reports are true and that Boston is out, the Yankees wouldn't be as likely to go up to a bigger offer at that point.
I think it was a motivating factor of why the Yankees went to 7-10, because I think Boston had the second biggest offer. Like we talked about yesterday on Hot Stove, that we think the Red Sox were the second best offer over the Mets. Right, the Mets had the first, the Red Sox were the second. I think the Yankees came in and they think they have to be over the Red Sox, because if it comes out that the Red Sox had a better offer than the Yankees, they're gonna get destroyed, regardless of if Juan Soto picks the Mets or the Yankees or the Red Sox. I think the Yankees 710 offer has nothing to do with the Mets. I think the 730 offer has something to do with the Yankees and why Cohen upped it a little bit. But I think the Yankees had to get over 700 because I think the Red Sox probably backed out. They might have been at 680. I don't think they want to go to 700. And I think the Yankees are probably like, whoa, we got to go to 700 here. Because if the Yankees go 690 and the Red Sox are 680, he might go to the Red Sox. That's scary to the Yankees, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think now Cohen only has to one up the Yankees. And I think the Yankees' motivation of going to over 700 was the Red Sox being damn close to being a final offer and being this close of getting Juan Soto. So, in my opinion, the Yankees are more scared of the Red Sox than they are the Mets when it comes to where Soto goes. And I think this is just saving face at this point, where the Yankees do want Juan Soto, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But they're saving face that they had a higher offer than the Red Sox. And they can tell their fans, hey, listen, we had a 710 offer. We had $30 million more than the Red Sox. He went to the Mets for $20 million more. The Yankees don't look embarrassed here, in my opinion. I think it's respectable.
There's already been some reports too, like internally from their reporters and Michael Kay saying like, listen, I mean, the Yankees did all that they could. And there's kind of like an excuse factor there at this point from some of the reports that I've been seeing. So that's actually a valid point, 100%. I will say though, we are 2 hours and 25 minutes onto the stream. If you have not hit the thumbs up on either of our streams on my channel, CP, New York Sports, CP's Mets and Knicks, please go ahead and hit the thumbs up. And on Rob's Talking Mets with Rob, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, both of our channels. Again, we will be here with you all. I'm assuming for 30 more minutes, right? We're going until 9. And if Juan Soto, the beautiful thing about this is that we're both off tomorrow, Rob. We're both off tomorrow. So if Juan Soto does sign tonight, you can bet your bottom dollar we are both live on our respective channels together talking about this Juan Soto signing. And even into tomorrow, we're going to do that. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that that is what the plan is. And again, there's so many rumors, and there's even like 3 or 4 different reports that we've gotten that have been new while we are on this stream. So we will be here with you all for a little bit more time. Again, we could go past 9. We don't have work tomorrow. Or we could cap it at 9, but we will have an actual live. If Juan Soto doesn't sign within the next 30 to 45 minutes, we will go live. Hopefully it's not at like 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, because that would be very, very difficult. And my neighbors would not be happy at all. But at the end of the day, I do want to say I'm a little bit parched, so I need to go get some water. Rob, hold it down for me. I'll be right back.
Absolutely. So, Chris might not hear this, but when he comes back, I'm gonna repeat myself. But Michael Barron, according to Ken Rosendahl and Will Salmon, the Mets are showing interest in right-handed pitchers Nathan Eovaldi, Jack Flaherty, Nick Pivetta, and Walker Buehler, and of course Sean Manaea. So, there's a possibility that the Mets might sign another pitcher by the time this Soto saga ends. So the Mets aren't just worrying about Soto and not worrying about anything else. So all the people that everybody's talking about, minus Burns and Fried and trade scenarios, all the guys that are free agents that people wouldn't mind having on this in this rotation, Eovaldi, Flaherty, Pivetta, Buehler, Sean Manaea, all are showing interest or Mets are interested in. So you might get news tonight that the Mets signed another starting pitcher before Juan Soto. And I'm going to wait for Chris to come back to repeat myself on that, since I think he took his headphones off and he probably can't hear it. But Joe, thank you for the super chat. And the reason why I wanted to hold off on that, and Joe, we're going to make a final prediction right before we end this stream. And by the way, guys, we're ending it at 9 o'clock only because we know that either Scott Boras and Juan Soto are in Texas right now ready for the winter meetings that start tomorrow, or they're still in California. So it's either a 2-hour or a 3-hour difference depending on where they are. So it's early on the West Coast, either 5:30 or 6:30, where they might be at the moment. The reason why we're going to end it at 9 is because me and Chris are talking on the side here in our private chat that we'll have our breaking news stream together if the news breaks, and we hope it's not 3:00 in the morning. But if it is, we both don't work tomorrow, so I guess we're staying up late just to hear the news. But I find it very hard to believe that you're gonna get a Juan Soto signing at 3 a.m. in the morning. This is too big of a signing for this to happen at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Right? Aaron Judge happened around what time? Like around 7, 8 o'clock at night when it was official that he signed with the Yankees, and Ohtani was around 8 o'clock at night or something. Like, it wasn't that late, so 8 o'clock West Coast time. So it was probably around 10, 11 o'clock East Coast time. So if it does happen tonight, I think it's going to be before midnight. If it happens, I don't think it's going to happen after midnight, Chris. And I don't know if you heard, but according to Ken Rosenthal and Will Salmon, the Mets have shown interest in Evaldi, Flaherty, Pivetta, Buehler, and Minaya.
Good.
So that's
I like
a good
all
thing.
those names. I like all those names.
Yep, absolutely. And Joe with the super chat says final predictions. I just told him that we're gonna give our final predictions right before we end the stream.
Yep.
Our ending predictions for years and total amount and where he's gonna go to. But I think we both, all of us, most everybody in the chat knows what we're gonna pick. It's just the numbers in the years might be a little different for both of us.
Yep.
But before we end the stream in about less than a half hour at 9 o'clock, if he doesn't sign by then, we'll give our final predictions. If he makes the decision in the next 25 minutes, we're going to stay on and break it all down and discuss it. But if not, we'll have a breaking news together whenever that might happen. If it's today, do you believe, Chris, it's going to be before midnight to sign in?
That's what I was going to ask you, because you have football Sunday coming up too as well. And that could be a factor too. Like if you want.
I think that's typical Boris. He would love to do it right before football Sunday at 1 p.m. tomorrow.
Really? You think so?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he wants to beat a story in New York because the Giants and Jets suck. Nobody really cares.
Yeah, they're awful.
Right? They're awful. Right? So what are New York fans caring about? Are they, obviously you're a Giant fan, Jeff, and you're going to watch the team. Right? But if Juan Soto signs, your mind's on that all of a sudden. Right? 100%.
You see that banner up there? I've got nothing to cheer for this season. So
if I can tear my camera up, you'll see a big Cowboys helmet, and they suck too, by the way. But go NFC East, woohoo!
Yeah, exactly.
But,
no, listen. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I would hope that it's going to be, in the peak hours, between. Obviously, it's 8:35 right now on Saturday. I do think if it's going to be tomorrow, perhaps in the daytime, I would hope so. I mean, this is differences.
Football starts.
Yeah, okay. But you know what? I'm still holding out hope that it gets to like 10 p.m., 10:30 p.m. tonight on a Saturday, and we hear the news, right?
Well, that's the thing, right? If these are the final offers, you would think you would make a decision tonight.
Exactly.
And again, depending on where Boris and Soto is, right? They might be at the winter meetings in Texas already, in their hotel rooms.
Yeah.
Right. Either way, it's a few hour difference. 2 hours or 3 hours, depending if they're in California or there. But I don't think if you're the Yankees or the Mets, you're going to want to make a breaking news story at 2 a.m. when most people are probably sleeping. Oh, not everybody, but, it's a weekend, but most people are probably sleeping. You would want it to be first thing in the morning on Sunday where you get the back pages. You are the talk of the town before football starts. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be between any time before 1 and 8 o'clock at night when football game NFL is going on. I think that's a news dump of stupidity, but it is Major League Baseball. You never know. They are stupid.
Well,
with that.
And the other thing is that they could also wait to announce it on Monday when the winter meetings actually come, which would be
and have a ceremony and all that stuff.
Oh, that would be so annoying. I would not like that.
Another Juan Soto watch party, guys. You hate us already.
You've heard too much of us already. 100%. Yeah, but as Rob said, we're both going to be on here. We've got it locked and loaded. We're going to be on here together talking about the Juan Soto news. Monday is, again, still, I'm available for it. I'm not sure if that changes the ball game for you, but if it's tonight or tomorrow, we're both free. So expect to see our faces up again on your screen. And again, subscribe to both channels because, again, I think I don't want to get to the point of this offseason where people think that all we're here for is Juan Soto talk. We are going to be, and if you look,
I'm sorry again. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, if you look at the content already on our channel, like we've talked about pretty much everything there is to be in terms of videos and in terms of live streams, in terms of the pitching, plan B options, like we're here for it all. So, and if you think that this is content that you want to watch in season, we will be breaking down games for you all, just as we did. If you are new to either of our channels, you can check out the entire 2024 season of us doing Amazing Mets pregame shows. We were doing roundtables in between, and when schedules were permitted, we were doing post-game shows and breaking down pretty much every game for you all for the New York Mets. So again, the offseason is not the only time we're doing content in season 2. Rock with us, stick with us. We got you covered. Don't worry.
Yeah, and all you gotta do is check out episode 10 of Hot Stove. What was it, 4 days ago, where all we talked about was starting pitching and where the Mets are gonna go. Like the whole, obviously we talked a little bit about Juan Soto, but the majority of that Hot Stove was about starting pitching. So, this is not exclusively where, and obviously the Mets are telling you by signing Montage and Holmes, Juan Soto isn't the only addition that the Mets are going to make if they get Juan Soto. So, this is where it's at right now. And there's a lot of reporters, Chris, that are coming out, like official reporters that are saying it's all coming down to one thing for Juan Soto. And I've said it for years. Does he want to play in front of the greatest fans on the planet or just play in front of spectators? Right? These are legitimate reporters saying this now.
Who said that? Who said that?
Let me see. Hold on one second. So he's actually a Yankee content creator. Sorry about that. That's
of course he is. Of course he is. Would you expect anything less? So the greatest fans in all of sports, 100%.
The rent free that Met fans live in Yankees heads is beyond crazy to me. Don't talk about 27 championships and your historic history, and tell me that the Mets are living in your head rent free. Why? It should be the other way around, guys. The Yankees should be living rent free in our minds. But guess what? We don't care about you. You know what lives rent free in the Mets' mind? The Braves and the Phillies and the Dodgers. That if the Yankees need the Mets to be rent free in their minds, then you're totally wrong here. You need to worry about the Red Sox, who are going to be getting better, right? The Blue Jays might do other guys if they don't get Juan Soto to get, right? There might be a better American League teams. That's what you need to be worrying about, not the Mets. Rent free. This is amazing to me. Like, we don't trash the Yankees just to trash the Yankees. When we trash
some Mets fans do, though. Some Mets fans do, I will say.
I'm talking about us. I'm not going to talk about other people. I'm not going to put words in other people's mouth. But for us, we don't trash the Yankees without giving the facts. Sure. Right? We talked about their trash lineup. That's a fact. Look at the postseason. The offense was embarrassing.
It was bad. It was really bad.
It was bad. The lineup was not good. That's a fact.
I even gave them props for their pitching. I understand that they have a decent pitching core.
The Yankees have something unique in where they can throw shit against the wall in their bullpen, and they end up being very good pitchers. And the Yankees, year after year after year, and I gave the Yankees credit for years for this, they always find a way to have the top 5 bullpen in baseball, and half the guys you never even heard of. And they got them on the waiver wire, the free agent market, or the scraps of other teams, and they find a way to make them very good bullpen arms. Like they have that. So we give credit where credit's due. How many times did we give credit to the Phillies and the Dodgers and the Braves when we clearly hate those teams? We could easily not say anything good about them, but we give credit where credit's due. And we kill the Mets. Like, if we never kill the Mets and we're just giving credit to the Mets for every freaking thing, then we wouldn't be, gaining subscribers, getting views. We would be fakes because we're not telling you the truth. We've killed our team, constantly.
Oh, easily, 100%.
So, we just don't do this to other teams that we don't like. We do it to our own team. Which I can't say a lot about for Yankee fans. Yankee fans did the best thing since sliced bread. It seems like that often. Like, you can't criticize the Yankees without Yankee fans, saying 27 world championships.
I will say, Joe's McFly,
I like him though.
I like
He's
him.
cool.
He's very objective, and I appreciate his
He's
opinions
funny as
because,
hell, though.
yeah, he's funny. And you know what? He did mention, I will say, he did mention that if the Yankees were to meet up with the Mets in the World Series, that the Yankees would still have been obliterated. That came directly from him too, and I appreciate that because again, I think the Mets were the better team in this season. I 100%, 100%.
And you're right about that, right? Because I follow him on X, and I do watch his channel a lot because I'm not that Yankee hater where I don't support Yankee YouTube creators. I do.
Sure.
Like I do. Like I'm not gonna lie about that. Like
yeah.
I can care less if I'm a Mets fan. Good content is good content. It's just that simple.
Correct.
So yeah, I had discussions with Brave content creators. Like I might be doing something with him for a season preview with a Brave content creator when the season's about to start during spring training. So I'm not against that. And you're right about Joseph. He's hilarious though. Like his reactions are just
so funny. It's great content. I like watching. I genuinely like paying attention to what he has to say. Because again, he reacts a certain way just as we do, right? He's very animated and I appreciate that. And he has good content. So we're going to support that, right? Again, just because content creators are supporters of different teams doesn't mean that we're not paying attention to that. We know what it takes and I appreciate that. So, but I do remember that one specific tweet that he put out vividly. And I think that he was being very real in that certain moment, right? About the Mets. If they were to have met up with, and this is a big if, obviously, but the Yankees were that abysmal in the World Series. It's just the fact of the matter. But yeah, man, 100%.
That would be epic. Joe McFly and Hector. I mean, if you understand them, they'll be screaming at each other back and forth. Like it would be awesome to watch. That would be hilarious. And by the way, guys, if you're a Mets fan, you probably know, especially in New York, about the QBC, the Queens Baseball Convention. It was today. And this is my first time not going in a couple of years because I
need to get out there, man. I need to get out there.
Yeah, and I know Hector was there. He was taking pictures and stuff like that. I know Hector, he is, the guy that, Hector from Washington Heights. If you know WFN, you know Hector. I went to QBC for the last couple of years, and it's always awesome. Jose Reyes was one of the guest honorees there. I don't know who else was there. Sometimes they have special guests that they don't like promote and just the guys show up. Last year was Doc Gooden and Andy Chavez, which was awesome.
The Mets Duos Park guys were there. John and Ibby were there. I know 100%. So with Shea and shout out to him as well. He was there. So yeah, 100%.
They were the first panel, State of the Mets. They were on the one of the tables and speaking and all that. Again, we know Ant and Ibby do great work and they're awesome. I forgot. I think Lori Rubinson and I think Healy was another guy on the State of the Mets panel. And it's always a great time, right? They have got people who sell baseball stuff, Mets paraphernalia and stuff like that, auctions and all that. It's really cool. Like if you haven't been to the QBC, it's worth the money, guys. You get, you have to pay to get autographs from certain guys. Obviously, the QBC doesn't make a ton of money. They got to pay these guys that come in, the special guests. So, that's why you're paying for it. But I mean, it's a great time. You get to see all the people during the off season that you won't see until the summer or spring, right? I mean, I always get together with those guys. I love those guys. A lot of the people from the 7-Line Army go and all that stuff. So it's a lot of fun. So if you haven't been to the QBC, it's worth the price. It's a lot of fun. And it's Mets wall to wall. You have to love that. Like,
you know what though? This just made me excited because I want to go out to Mets spring training, and your shirt kind of inspired this thought too. We had this discussion last year, Rob, right? Yes. We got to get out to the Mets spring training together. It's a blast. It looks like a blast. I got to do it. And we will be doing some live content right from the spring training facility over there. Yeah. And that's just a really good time. So I think that we have to make that happen 100%. And you know what? I'm just going to say it right now. It's kind of a little bit far-fetched, but we could make it happen this upcoming spring training.
Hey, Chris, me and Hayden did. Right, we did it a couple of years ago. We did content in the hotel room.
I'm down for it.
I picked up Hayden from college. We went back to the hotel room, and I drove from Orlando to DeLand, Florida, and picked them up. Like no joke, I did. And Hayden can confirm this, right? I had no problem with that. And that was when me and Hayden were doing a lot of shows together. And we went back to the hotel. We got some food, and we had a live stream, and we did some live stream on the berm during the first game at spring training with the 7-line army. Like,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Chris, it's awesome. And like I said, if we can talk about it, because I am going to Houston for opening day. Like, that's confirmed. I already put in my vacation time. I'm ready to go. But if you want to do spring training, just let me know when I can work it out and put my vacation in time.
Well,
now.
you're even closer over there than I am at this point. I think we're both pretty close enough to make this happen. So we'll schedule this offline. And again, just a little bit of a sneak peek in terms of the subscribers here of what we are actually planning on doing to make our content better for you all and just put it over the top so you all get a little bit more of a unique perspective on it. So again, this is not just off-season stuff. We will be here with you all spring training and during the season too. 100%.
And we got about a little more than 10 minutes left, Chris, and we're going to go back to Joe's super chat with final predictions. But I want to ask you, do you think it's a good sign that Juan Soto's taking longer to decide, since we know 2 offers are on the table now, 7:30 from the Mets, 7:10 from the Mets? Is it a good sign for the Mets that he's taking longer, or is it a good sign for the Yankees to take longer? And then we'll go into my opinion and then final predictions.
I think it's better for the Yankees if he's taking longer.
I agree.
I think it's better for the Yankees if he's taking long. I can't lie to you all. We are as objective as can be. Again, there's a lot of factors that he has to weigh.
Yep.
And it's very clear that the Yankees have an advantage, and they had an advantage going into this just with him being a Yankee already in 2024.
Yeah, we talked about that.
And we talked about this, until, we got blue in the face, right?
Correct.
I think it's a fact that if there is $20, $25, $30 million difference in both offers, if he continues to wait this out, I think that favors the Yankees. Again, it's just speculation at this point, but that's my initial opinion. I don't have any facts to support that. That's my opinion, and that's how I will assess that.
Does he wait? Is he waiting because he wants the Yankees to match? And then but it seems like he'll always go back to Cohen though. So that means, that means he could be leaning Mets too with the better offer. Like, that's what I don't want. That's why we don't know. Like, I hope it comes out after the fact where he kept on going back to Cohen. Because if he going back to Cohen, that means he wants the most money. And it doesn't matter if it's the Mets or the Yankees. But I think he's waiting for the Yankees to come up with the bigger offer. But I don't see that happening. And that's why I think the argument can be made either way, right? If he's looking for the most money and wants the Yankees to match the Mets, is he just waiting for the Yankees to match and then signing, not going back to Cohen? But all indications are he's already went back to Cohen, right? Because the Mets wouldn't have a bigger offer if they didn't go back to him. He wouldn't know, right? So that tells me that if he wanted to be a Yankee and take what was offered, he would have signed already. So why go back to Cohen if you're going to take less money anyway to go back to the Yankees? So it tells me maybe he's waiting to milk a little bit more from the Mets to sign with the Mets, or he's just taking the Mets higher offer.
100%. And you know what? I will say I have this gut feeling that the Yankees offer is smoke. I feel like again, they could be offering 710. I'm not just trying to discredit that, but I will be very hard pressed to say that if the Mets are to offer one echelon or one tier above this right now, let's say the Yankees remain at 710 and the Mets are committing to honor that $50 million gap and they go 750 or 760. I think that he's a Met. I think that he's a Met 100%. And I think that's what Steve Cohen's going to do. But again, on the other side of things, Steve Cohen also doesn't want to get swindled here in offering up $30 more million unnecessarily, right?
Well, yeah, why would he?
Exactly.
If the highest offer, I mean, I think Juan Soto is saying, listen, look, this is a situation, if everybody remembers the Carlos Beltran situation, the Mets gave the Yankees had an offer, the Mets went higher, Beltran went back to the Yankees and saying, if you match, I'll be a Yankee. The Yankees said no, and he became a Met. So this can be a scenario where Juan Soto says, listen, I'm going to sign with the Yankees because it's only $20 million more. If you can get it to 750, I'm yours. You really think Cohen's going to say no for $20 million when it's already over $700 million? That's why I think he's going to be a Met, because I think if Juan Soto comes back and say, listen, I will sign with you guys for this number, I don't think Cohen's going to say no at this point. I mean, he's already in the basket. Remember, he was the highest offer for Yamamoto last year. The Yamamoto never went back to Cohen to outbid the Dodgers. He waited to the Dodgers to outbid to match the Mets, and he went to the Dodgers. This is the scenario where I think Soto wants the Yankees to match Cohen, but there's no indication that Cohen's going to stop and say no to upping the offer. So this is a situation where I already believe, where I think this is Boris smoke with the Yankees offer. It might be 710, but I think it's more realistic where Boris probably trying to milk a little bit more out of the Mets just to say, we can probably get more out of the Mets. Why not try? I think that could be that's where I think they're getting used, where I don't think he's necessarily going to choose the Yankees, but being used to get a little bit more money out of the richest man in baseball, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just like it because Mike who is clearly a Yankees fan, is saying this is the same old sad story, but he follows it up by saying he could be the rare exception. So there's a little bit, there's a little bit of doubt in Mike's mind in what I'm gathering here. But listen, at the end of the day, this only reaffirms my strong thought process in that Steve Cohen is leading the charge on this.
I agree.
I mean, it's very evident with these reports that Steve Cohen is the one that is in charge of these negotiations at this point. This is something that is beyond the realm of David Stearns. And I know that I was having this discussion with Hector. I know that we had this discussion yesterday as well. This is Steve Cohen's ship. It is. And anybody that doesn't believe that, I mean, again, David Stearns has never entered this realm before. He's never entered this type of discussion before. So Steve Cohen is the one that is doing the business in terms of negotiating with his friend, coincidentally, in Scott Boras.
Yeah. And by the way, this is the first time the Mets and Yankees are fighting for the same player, right? Aaron Judge, the Yankees were damn lucky that Steve Cohen respected the Yankees and Hal Steinbrenner and not go after Aaron Judge, because he clearly could have. There was a respect factor there because Aaron Judge was his homegrown own Yankee. Why Cohen didn't go after him? I truly believe if Cohen did not give a fuck, he would have went after Aaron Judge. Not saying Aaron Judge would have became a Met. Sure. I don't believe that. I think Aaron Judge always wanted to be a Yankee.
Just scared them, just like the Giants did, right?
Yeah, Cohen could have scared the hell, and he could have been the biggest offer and just say for the hell of it, let me just make the Yankees pay more. Yeah. Just because. He didn't do that. You know why? Because there's a respect factor here. This is already telling you with Steve Cohen that Juan Soto's fair game. This isn't playtime. This is, we're in the ring where we got the boxing gloves on. And right now, Steve Cohen throwing the uppercut. Now, are the Yankees going to throw a jab or two or three? Maybe. We'll see. But just so Yankee fans understand that we're not trolling here and we're not being assholes towards the Yankees are already, if this number is true for the Yankees, they're already at a respectable number. There is no shame in Juan Soto going to the Mets. You are not embarrassed here at all. You would have been embarrassed if you weren't one of the two finalists. But
with the original report with them being 550, right? Or whatever it was.
And they were the third best offer, apparently, or even a fourth, right? They're already in respectable mode here. So if I'm a Yankees fan and you lose Juan Soto, yeah, you might have the instant reaction of being pissed off because you did lose it to your crosstown rivals, but you did lose him to a National League team, which, yeah, you might have to see him in the Mets uniform and in the back pages a couple more times, but the Yankees gave a respectable number if that number is true. And even if it's not $700 million and they're still the second best offer, it's still respectable. You know, I would say confident if I'm a Yankees fan in Hal Steinbrenner that if he's willing to go to nearly $700 million for Juan Soto and doesn't get him, maybe you feel more comfortable or at least more confident that Hal's going to spend a little bit more money to bolster the lineup and bolster the team and maybe go after one of the starting pitchers on the market. Maybe trade for a Bellinger. for first base or something like that. Maybe bring in Anthony Santander. Maybe they do that. Maybe they bring in Pete Alonso for that matter, right? There's other options there. I think this gives the Yankees more confidence in putting the roster together that doesn't involve Juan Soto. Because I do think if they get Juan Soto, that's all they're doing.
Who's their pivot point, though, if they don't get Juan Soto, is my question.
I think it's going to be Pete Alonso, to be quite honest with you.
Sure.
I mean, it makes sense. Or trading for Bellinger, because we heard them rumors as well.
You think they can go for Bregman? Put Jazz at second?
I mean, I think that would be smart. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? I mean,
because Adames was already on their radar as well.
Yeah. I mean,
before he went to the Giants.
I still think there's an Astros issue with Cashman, so I don't think that's going to happen. I think Cashman is still crying in the corner about the Astros cheating, even though the Yankees couldn't hit home road on the road. So during that time frame, so I think Cashman is not going to do that with Bregman. I think there's still a little Astros bias. Go F the Astros. I mean, I
don't know if that matters.
I think it does for Cashman. Now, maybe Yankee fans might. I mean, it's not Altuve, right? So, I mean, look, if the Yankee fans don't want Alex Bregman, like, do you still care about the cheating scandal? Like, the guy's a really damn good player. He will help your team. It makes Jazz Chisholm go to the position he is better in. It betters your roster. It betters your overall lineup. It betters your defensive capabilities. He's a Gold Glover, which the Yankees did not have at third base. Like, if you don't want Alex Bregman, you're crazy. So
apparently Caesar in the chat is a Blue Jays fan, and he's thinking that Soto goes there and Pete Alonso while they already are struggling to re-sign Vlad Guerrero. Caesar, I think you really need a reality check in terms of the state of your organization or your favorite team's status in this league, because they've been a failure for the past couple of seasons. So it's a little bit of wishful thinking, but I understand where you were coming from. At the end of the day, like, the Blue Jays do have the money to spend. I don't know where they're going in terms of an organization. I have nothing against the Blue Jays. I'll be very evident about that. But to come out and say that they're going to get Soto and Alonso, it's a little bit of wishful thinking, in my opinion.
That means that Guerrero is definitely gone. So that
And Mark Andrew here in the chat saying that a Blue Jays fan here, glad he's not coming to Toronto, can't even extend Vlad, is exactly my thought process, right? Like, that's exactly what I'm saying. So again, like, it's no shade to the Blue Jays. I genuinely have nothing against the Blue Jays. Like, I respect the organization and I respect their willingness to spend. It's just a hard destination to sell. And the fact that they also just haven't had the success over the past couple of seasons is going to be hard for them. So shout out to the Blue Jays fans base out there. 100% shout out to you, Mark. But, Caesar saying all this about Soto and Alonso is just like, what are you doing?
Chris, I just want to let you know there's this Boston sports guy. I don't know if he's a content creator or not, but he has over 60,000 followers, if that means anything, on X. He just tweeted, he don't believe the Yankees are the first or second team choice for Juan Soto. He thinks it's between the Red Sox and the Mets. And like you said, Chris, you think the Yankees offer is smoke. That could be very true. And this is from Enrique Rojas of ESPN. So that's where he got this from. So, and he wrote it in Spanish and he translated it. So a Dominican reporter that works for ESPN put that out there, that he don't believe the Yankees are the first and second favorites for the choice of Juan Soto, and he don't believe Juan Soto, the Yankees have the biggest offer or the second biggest offer. He thinks it's the Mets and the Reds and the Yankees. The Mets and the Red Sox. Sorry. So again, more conflicting reports. Now, again, this ESPN reporter, I don't know if he's connected somehow. I don't know, but he is a reporter. He's just a Spanish reporter for ESPN. I think in Espanol, in Spanish, I think it's called EspanolESPN.com. He's a writer for them. So, maybe it's legit, maybe it's not. And again, we know about the Dominican connection with the Red Sox, right? Pedro Martinez, David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez. We all know that. So I think there's some clout to that. You said it from the beginning, Chris. You think Boston's more of a threat than the Yankees. And again, what Heyman just reported, it seems like Yankees and Mets, but could it be true that Boston's still involved here before we try to end this stream?
I think Boston is still involved 100%, but given the fact that we just talked about the Yankees not being so willing to have the Red Sox outbid them, right? Let alone the Mets. I really do think it's a 3-team race. Like, again, the progression of this Juan Soto free agency has just taken just crazy shape, right? At first, there was so much hype surrounding the Boston Red Sox. Then it shifted to the New York Mets. Then it recently shifted to the Yankees a little bit while the Mets were still involved. And now it shifted to Mets, Yankees, Red Sox are nowhere involved, right? And again, like, I'm not counting out the Red Sox. I thought it was going to be a 3-team race. I still think it's a 3-team race at the end of the day. I really do. I really do. I think the Red Sox would also go to great lengths, just as the Yankees and the Mets offers for 710 and 730. I think they'll do that as well. I think they have an entire city to win over after they let Mookie Betts go. I do.
I agree.
So again, I'm not going to discredit either of these teams. The fact of the matter is that Steve Cohen's still not getting outbid, no matter who the owner is and which respective team it is. It doesn't matter if it's Steinbrenner. It doesn't matter if it's forgot the Red Sox owner's name. But again, I think Henry, something like that.
John Henry, yeah.
Yeah. Steve Cohen's not getting outbid. That's the problem. So if Steve Cohen does not get what he wants, it's because the player and Juan Soto thought situationally the Mets just simply weren't there yet, even given a National League Series, championship series appearance, right? That would be the only thing that I can think of. But again, I really do think situationally, money-wise, in order to cement your legacy as one of the best players in a franchise, period, no matter what the position is, right? Like, why not the Mets? Why not the Mets? And you still have, right, a huge, Dominican population, right? Everyone wants to talk about that. And that's the primary selling factor for the Boston Red Sox. And that's what they're using to try to win Juan Soto over. You still have that in Queens. You obviously have that in the Bronx, right? I mean, it's like kind of a no-brainer. So again, I don't know, man. There's a lot of different factors here. I still think it's a 3-team race. And I really don't think that we will truly know the favorites, quote unquote, until the final report comes from Jeff Passan. It has to come from Jeff Passan, to which, again, it's 9:05 p.m. right now. We will go live for it. We will go live.
Correct. And Caesar just said everything in. When was the last time the Mets won the World Series? Again, that does not matter at this point. If this mattered, the Mets would never be involved, right? The Jays hasn't won since the 90s. Like, that's a long time ago too, right? That does not matter, right? It doesn't. If it did, then the Mets wouldn't be involved at all if it mattered. Again, these players don't care about that, right? They don't, right? 86 has nothing to do with the Mets of 2025. The same reason 2009 has nothing to do with the 2025 Yankees. It doesn't. Has nothing to do with that. That doesn't mean the team can't win. Right? The Texas Rangers, who never won a World Series, just won the World Series. Why ain't everybody jumping to them? Right?
This is a great point.
I mean, come on. Like, why did Corey Seager sign with why did Jacob deGrom? Why did Simeon? Why did they all go to the Texas Rangers? They had no World Series victories, wins in their history prior to winning a few years ago. Players most of the time are going to take the most money. It doesn't matter the team or what their history is, right? They'll talk about the history once they sign with the team and say, I want to change this, right? With Rex Ryan being the coach with the Jets, right? He says, I don't care about the Patriots championships. I want to bring one to the Jets the first time since Joe Namath. Like, it's stuff like that they'll talk about after they sign, right? Luis Severino, just ask him. He signed it. He was talking about he wants to bring the Athletics to where they were when they were making the playoffs a few years back, right? So they don't care about what the team was. You pay them, they're coming, right? When they say build it, they will come. In Field of Dreams, you pay them, they will come. That's just how it goes. That is baseball in a nutshell, guys. That's just a fact. All right, so a little past 9 o'clock, Chris. Final thoughts time. We're going to go back to Joe's super chat here. Final predictions. Chris, I'm going to give you the floor here. Years, amount, and team.
Oh man, that's a loaded question. Can I break out my calculator real quick?
Sure.
Gotten into the calculator territory, man. I want to go off of the recent reports. If 730 is true, then 730 is true. I think that'd have to be over 15 years, unfortunately. I'd rather just keep it to 14, but that would have to mean that it's 15, right? Which would make that $48.6 million per year. Again, I'm literally looking at my calculator right now, just in terms of what the most efficient contract could be. This is all a calculator game, man. It really is.
It's Monopoly.
You know what? Weeks ago, you would have asked me what the AAV on Juan Soto was. I would have told you 48, 49, maybe 47, somewhere around there, 47 to 49. I wouldn't have even thought of it getting into $50 million per year. You know what? Seems like we're in this territory now. So, you know what? If it's 730, let's go under the presumption that it's 730 for the Mets and 710 for the Yankees, right? I don't think the Yankees are going past 710. If that rumor of them having that deal is true, which I have my own reservations about at the end of the day. I don't know if that 710 report for them from them is true. It doesn't seem true. But again, just in case that it is true, let's say 7. What is 750 over 14 put him at? That's $53.5 million a year. I would pay him the $53.5 million a year, and I wouldn't think twice about it. 750 for 14, probably an opt-out. Player opt-out, because he can opt back into it, right? That's a player opt-out. That's his control. After the third year, when he goes into 29, his 29-year-old season, right? 750 for 14 with the Mets, opt out after the third year. There's no sense in opting and doing another opt out, because again, if it goes past his age 29 or age 30 season, there's no sense in opting out at that point, right? There's no team that's going to even come close, I think, at least in terms of this value, right? Unless inflation at that point is just like tremendously high. So it doesn't make sense to offer a second opt-out. It'd be that first opt-out and that first opt-out only. 750 for 14 with the New York Mets. Get it done. Give me Juan Soto. That's what I think.
There you go. So Mets 14, 750, which is a little over 53 million, 53 and a half. That is Chris's prediction. My prediction is also the Mets. Shocking. I think it's going to be a beautiful round number. 15 years, 750 million, $50 million on the dot. I think that's a nice round number. I think that's much more than what the Yankees are going to go. I think it's going to be $30 to $40 million more than the Yankees. And when Soto does sign with the Mets and Yankee fans saying, oh, we only went there for the money, well, duh. You didn't do it. Mets did. Too bad. And that's what we're going to say. Now, if he takes less money, all bets are off. Then, like, I don't know what little sandwich is. I'm sorry. I just have to break that comment. That's a stupid. Like, come on. Like, woof. But, yeah. So, 750, 15 years, $50 million a year, New York Mets. I think he's going to the highest bidder. The Mets going to have the highest offer. And hopefully it happens tonight, sometime before midnight. And again, they're on the West Coast, either Cali or Texas. Texas is the winter meetings. So it's obviously 2-hour to 3-hour difference, depending on where Boris and Soto is. I would think they're in Texas right now at their hotel rooms getting ready for the winter meetings. So I think they're all together. So if this happens, it's going to happen quick, right? I think it's going to be a situation where the passing bomb's going to come just like that. It's not going to be, oh, the Mets are on the verge or the Yankees are on the verge. It's going to be, boom, sign it. Because I think they're all in that same hotel right now. So you would think, all right, if they're in Texas, it's around 7:15 now. So there you go. I think this is what's going to happen. I think either it's going to happen before midnight tonight or just past the midnight tonight, or it's going to happen sometime between 9 a.m. tomorrow and 1 p.m. kickoff for football. Sometime between there. I hope it doesn't go past that because I don't want to be watching football and having another watch party, even though I'll be okay with that. We talk for 3 hours about one.
I would do it. 100%.
Right? And we can throw up other crazy stuff that we're going to be talking about and other crazy ideas. So once again, Chris had 750 for 14, 53.5 million. I had a beautiful round number of 750 for 15, $50 million a year, both for the New York Mets. Again, you can agree to disagree in the comments. I know Yankee fans probably will. Blue Jay fans still believe they're in the hunt. We haven't heard a lot of Red Sox fans, which is interesting because I don't think I don't think the Red Sox have any reason to troll the Mets fans. They would probably troll the Yankee fans a lot more, obviously. So, Chris, final words before we go, and hopefully we see each other later tonight for some breaking news.
I was going to say, if we take a quick 45-minute break, an hour break, and then we have to come back on the live stream, I'd be perfectly content with that and heading into Sunday, either happy or not, but at least it's over going into Sunday at this point. That's what I would love. We'll see what actually happens. But again, the same thing that we usually always say. The one thing that I will say is that there's a lot of people probably still holding out hope that Juan Soto signs for under $45 million a year. With the latest reports, I don't see that happening, right? I think it's going to be north of that by about $5 or $6 million. But yeah, I appreciate everyone sticking here with us. 3 hours and 10 minutes on the live stream is the most that we've done, that I've done at least in quite some time. Little bit of a struggle, but guess what? I'm going to go back, rejuvenate a little bit, scroll the Twitter timeline, see if there's any new reports, and we'll be ready to go. And we will be live. So again, hit the notifications buttons on both channels, CP New York Sports and Talking Mets with Rob. Again, if you're in my live chat, go to Rob's. If you're in Rob's live chat, come to mine. Subscribe. Hit the thumbs up. Please spam those thumbs up buttons. It means a lot. That is probably the most important thing as well in terms of viewership, and we hope you enjoy the content. We understand that it's 3 hours worth of content with so many reports to go in between, but we hope we were able to make it entertaining for you in terms of the conversations and all the what if scenarios. Again, it's a lot of what if scenarios, but that's all it is at this point, with not many reports being solidified at this point. So we hope you kept entertaining. Keep rocking with us. Hit the subscribe button because, again, even after this whole Juan Soto saga is over, we'll still be with you all talking Mets baseball. Appreciate it. Let's go Mets. That's my final thoughts.
There you go, guys. Juan Soto Watch Party, episode 1, and hopefully the only episode of the Watch Party for Juan Soto. And again, before we go, guys, John Heyman, about 45 minutes ago, put up a New York Post report that the Mets are at 730. He didn't give years, but you would think it's between 14 and 15 years. 730 for the Mets, 710 for the Yankees. It seems like the Yankees and the Mets are the two finalists. Maybe, maybe not. It might be still Boston, maybe Toronto. But with that said, guys, thank you for tuning into a 3-hour plus show of the Juan Soto Watch Party. We didn't get a sign-in, but we had Adames sign. We had O'Neill sign with their respective teams. And now we're just waiting for Juan Soto. Hopefully it happens tonight. If it does, we will be live with breaking news, me and Chris, with where Juan Soto signs. Have a great night, guys. It's going to be a long night scrolling X, but we're all here for it, guys. As always, Met fans, let's go Mets. And we'll see you hopefully later tonight with some breaking news. Good night, guys.
Go Mets.
The dead of night, full of echo. Concrete jungle, dreams bust to grow. Mets in the air, chase glory, no fear. Broken backs, but hearts steer clear. OMG, the chaos, what a scene. Streets buzzing like a machine. Critters from the shadows, chills on my spine.